This young man has 64 billion nanobots in his body. He can comprehend martial arts techniques with just a glance. Not only that, but he can also master any martial arts technique he sees someone else use just once. He is the illegitimate son of the demonic cult leader, Tian Luzan. The demonic cult has 6 major sects. The demonic cult leader made a marriage pact with the 6 major sects, intending to marry women from each sect and have children. The children would be raised by the 6 major sects. And he is the cult leader's 7th son. They are now grown and about to enter the most brutal place in the demonic sect, the Devil's Grotto. The Devil's Grotto is where the demonic sect cultivates its experts. It's held once every 10 years. On his way to the examination, Tian Luzan was pursued by assassins. He was seriously injured. He was saved by a man in modern clothing. When he woke up again, the wound on his stomach had healed. My body was covered in a thick, black, foul-smelling liquid. While I was still disoriented, a voice suddenly appeared in my head, claiming to be a nanosystem. I thought it was the great demon lord speaking. Terrified, I curled up and hid under the bed. The nanosystem, wanting me to use it better, directly transmitted the user manual into my brain. The massive influx of information made me dizzy. When I came to, I clutched my head in pain. I hesitantly asked, "Are there really tens of thousands of nanomachines inside me?" My nanosystem replied, "To be precise, there are 64 billion nanosystems." Just then, a knock came at the door. It turned out to be his guard, Zhang, who had brought a physician to examine him. Guard Zhang had found him unconscious in the wilderness and brought him back. The physician in white took his pulse. He wore a surprised expression, exclaiming in disbelief. Beside him, Guard Zhang anxiously asked, "Physician, what do you mean? Is there something wrong with the young master?" The physician in white slowly said, "On the contrary, the impurities in his body have been expelled, his 8 extraordinary meridians have been opened, and his body has become ideally suited for martial arts training." Hearing this, Tian Luzan suddenly remembered the thick, black liquid on his body earlier was the expelled impurities. After the physician left, Guard Zhang, unable to bear the stench emanating from him, said, "Young master, you should still take a bath first." While bathing, Tian Luzan asked the nanosystem, "You just said you could restore my body, to what extent can it be restored?" The nanosystem replied, "External injuries or internal organ damage can be instantly restored, partial fractures and blood loss require time to recover." He took out a dagger and stabbed it into his palm. Then he let the nanosystem begin the restoration process. A light emanated from his palm. The wound closed gradually at a speed visible to the naked eye. Despite seeing it with his own eyes, he still found it hard to believe. After bathing, he went to the study. He picked up a secret martial arts manual. He quickly flipped through it. After he finished flipping through it, a system notification appeared, "Scan complete. The contents will be transferred to your brain. Do you agree?" Tian Luzan chose to agree without hesitation. A torrent of information flooded his mind. The influx of information made him dizzy. When he came to, he thought about the book's contents. They appeared in his mind, not just memorized, but fully understood and comprehended. Tian Luzan said joyfully, with this ability, he could learn secret cultivation techniques faster than anyone. This gave him more confidence that he could become stronger in the Devil's Cave and survive. The man who traveled through time to ancient times found his ancestor. The most advanced nanosystem was injected into his body. From then on, all secret martial arts manuals, scanned by the system, could be comprehended. He could master them directly without studying. With this heaven-defying ability, wouldn't school have been a breeze? Who needs martial arts? He could have been a professor and made a good living. Tian Luzan was so excited he couldn't sleep all night. Early in the morning, he went to the window and saw Guard Zhang practicing his saber techniques. While he was engrossed in watching Guard Zhang's training, the nanosystem's voice rang out, "Scan Guard Zhang's training movements?" Hearing this, Tian Luzan was a little surprised. He didn't expect that it could scan movements in addition to secret manuals. He immediately ordered the scan. About half an hour later, the scan was complete. Then the transfer began, accompanied by a splitting headache. The saber techniques appeared in his mind. He grabbed the dagger, wanting to give it a try. His movements were as fluid as flowing water in drifting clouds, identical to Guard Zhang's after 20 years of practice. But at that moment, a sharp pain shot through his muscles. The intense pain brought him out in a cold sweat. His muscles and tendons were still untrained. Performing such high-difficulty movements in this state had damaged his muscles and tendons. But the nanosystem could upgrade his muscles. It was his destiny to have the nanosystem strengthen his body. The intense pain gradually subsided. At this time, Guard Zhang was in the kitchen preparing breakfast. He heard a painful cry and rushed over. Tian Luzan had fainted from the intense pain. Guard Zhang checked his pulse and vital signs, finding his body normal. He was slightly relieved. Just then, he noticed the marks on the floor. Look closely, this is the footwork derived from the saber technique. He wore a shocked expression, never expecting the young master to match his 20 years of saber training after only watching him practice for 2. The young man took a nap, and his physical strength caught up to 20 years of another's training. All because he has 64 billion nanosystems in his body. Tian Ming woke up. The modification was complete. He picked up the short saber again. This time, the saber technique's movements. It can be used more accurately and powerfully. There's no muscle soreness either. Just then, Guard Zhang entered with breakfast. Tian Ming casually grabbed a table to cover the marks on the floor. Guard Zhang found it strange. He usually ate by the window. Tian Ming chuckled. I'm about to enter the devil's cave. So I want to eat in here. In truth, Guard Zhang had already noticed the marks on the floor. After he finished breakfast, Guard Zhang asked, when did you learn saber techniques? Hearing this, Tian Ming still wanted to deny it. Guard Zhang directly moved the table that was concealing it. Seeing these marks, he was even more certain that Tian Ming had mastered the saber techniques. Secretly learning someone else's martial arts is a taboo. He thought Guard Zhang would scold him, but unexpectedly, he was praised if it weren't for the agreement with the 6 great sects, and you not being allowed to cultivate martial arts. I would have taught you long ago. After saying that, he took out a cultivation pill and offered it to him. At this moment, Tian Ming's eyes welled up with tears. As he received the fortune pill, tears streamed down his face, causing him to drop it. He remembered the year his mother died. He was still young then. Guard Zhang raised him single-handedly. But when he enters the demonic cave, Guard Zhang will have to leave. From then on, he'll have to rely on himself, so he must be strong. He can't cry anymore. In the square, all the sect members had gathered. At this moment, Left Protector Li Yanming appeared above them. Looking down at the crowd standing below. The front row, full of spirit, was made up of the cult leader's sons. But he didn't see Tian Ming. Also sons of the demonic cult leader, the others stood proudly in the front row. While he could only stand in a hidden corner. Tian Ming lined up to receive his identification token, but was told there wasn't one for him. Helplessly, he could only wait to the side. He knew for sure it was the work of the 6 great sects. They didn't want him standing with the other young masters, clearly trying to make things difficult for him. The previous assassination attempt was also their doing. Tian Ming silently resolved he would become strong, become invincible. By the time he received his numbered token, the square was already packed with people. At this point, he couldn't push his way to the front, so he reluctantly stood at the back of the line. The Left Protector sternly scanned the front row but didn't see Tian Ming. Finally, he spotted him in the last row. Footsteps echoed. The sect leader slowly walked into the crowd. The Right Protector, following behind, tripped on his own robe and nearly kissed the ground. Left Protector Li Yanming wore a troubled expression. You came here in these rags, and you're completely drunk. Right Protector Yi Meng retorted, mind your own business, you red-haired freak. Just then, the cult leader's guard glanced at them, and they immediately fell silent. At that moment, the Heavenly Unity cult leader took his seat in the elevated position. His mere presence exuded an overwhelming aura that made everyone break out in a cold sweat. This was also Tian Ming's first time seeing the demonic cult leader. He saw the guard beside the cult leader wave his hand. The noisy square suddenly fell silent. Tian Yozong stood up. Future talents of the heavenly demon cult, welcome to the Devil's Cave. Everyone was astonished. Despite the distance, his voice was as clear as if he were right beside them, demonstrating his profound inner strength. The cult leader continued, you will cultivate your martial arts here and ultimately become the core strength of the cult. As soon as he finished speaking, the people in the square erupted in cheers, shouting, long live the heavenly demon cult. Just as the cult leader was about to leave the corner of his eye, he glimpsed fate's decree. Her cold gaze extinguished the last vestiges of hope in his heart. After the sect leader left, Left Protector Li Yanming spoke up. The demonic cave trials are divided into 6 stages. Each stage has a promotion assessment, and each assessment can only be challenged once. Failure results in elimination. Just then, a young master in the front row suddenly raised his hand and said, I have something to say. Li Yanming looked at the man and said coldly, did I give you permission to speak? As the sect leader's son, he couldn't bear this humiliation and immediately wanted to attack. Seeing young sect master Gu Fuji, Li Yanming released his aura. You should know that upon entering the Devil's Den, the privileges of the young sect master title are revoked. Do you want to be eliminated before the competition even begins? Hearing this, the man could only lower his head. He didn't want to be eliminated so early. Seeing his obedience, Li Yanming continued, although there is only one chance for the promotion assessment, passing it grants 3 special rewards. The first reward is the Demon Dragon Pill. Hearing this, the people below began to murmur. The Demon Dragon Pill was a miraculous pill of the sect. Absorbing it could increase one's internal energy by 20 years. Hearing this, Tian Ming felt a surge of hope. He currently has no internal energy, and if he can pass the 6 trials, his internal energy will surge in a short time. At this moment, Li Yanming continued on the platform. The second reward is a secret martial arts manual. The Devil's Cave library is divided into 5 floors. Each time you pass a stage of the examination, 1 floor will be open to you. Those who perform exceptionally well will have the opportunity to learn the sect leader's secret manual. The third reward is the restoration of your respective statuses. Even the young sect masters will have to start from scratch and pass the examination to regain their corresponding positions. After listening to the rules of the Devil's Cave examination, Tian Ruming knew that he now had to risk everything and move forward. Only in this way could he survive. Li Yanming looked at the noisy crowd in the square. Alright, the examination requirements have been explained. Dormitory and team assignments will now begin, followed by the first stage of the examination. Hearing this, Tian Ruming was immediately stunned. He didn't expect it to begin so soon, especially since he had no internal energy whatsoever. How would he face the first examination? At this moment, Tian Ruming finally understood why the 6 great sects hadn't allowed him to learn internal energy all those years ago. While some worried, others rejoiced. Young sect leader Tian Wujing had always wanted to eliminate Tian Ruming. He knew Tian Ruming possessed no internal energy and would definitely fail this examination, saving him the trouble of acting himself. Just then, a plump old woman, cradling a pipa, slowly approached. He is the elder and sect master of the Yin Demon sect, Xiang Surong. He is in charge of the first stage of the examination. Passing requires enduring his sonic waves for a quarter of an hour. Begin. The old woman begins to play the zither. The melodious sound transforms into a hypnotic wave, causing everyone to clutch their heads in pain. Those with insufficient internal energy begin to collapse. Meanwhile, the young sect masters in the front row remain calm. But besides them, there is one other person unaffected. The live broadcast system helped Tian Ruming withstand Yin Ba's attack. He felt nothing, standing motionless on the spot. Seeing him standing firm, without any sign of pain, Xiang Surong felt her pride provoked. Unconsciously, her fingers plucked the strings faster and faster. Under this powerful sonic attack, everyone in the square fell one after another. The young sect masters also felt the pressure and hurriedly circulated their inner energy to resist. Only Tian Ruming remained unaffected, showing no reaction whatsoever. Seeing that even increasing the power of her sonic attack didn't bring him down, Lu Zheng began to suspect that Tian Ruming had cultivated inner strength. At this moment, he was a little panicked. Just as he was about to increase the power of his sonic attack, the left protector stopped him in time. By now, more than half of the people in the square had collapsed. The current power of the sonic attack had already exceeded the requirements of the test. If he continued to increase its power, how could their internal energy withstand it? Xiang Surong also felt that he had gone a bit overboard. As soon as the test ended, Tian Ruming spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. Then he collapsed. Fresh blood gushed from his mouth. Seeing Tian Ruming vomit blood and collapse, left protector Li Yanming appeared beside him. Taking his wrist, he channeled a stream of pure internal energy into his body. At this moment, Li Yanming's expression suddenly turned to astonishment. Having just taken his pulse, he confirmed that Tian Ruming had no internal energy whatsoever, and had persevered solely through willpower. He immediately ordered someone to take him to the infirmary. On the way to the infirmary, Tian Ruming instructed his nanosystem to repair his damaged internal organs. Li Yanming looked at Xiang Sudong with a strange expression and said, "You went a bit overboard, old Xiang. He has no internal energy at all. You almost killed him." Hearing this, Xiang Sudong showed a dissatisfied expression, and yet, someone resisted the sound wave without relying on internal energy, only willpower. Tian Ruming was brought to the medical ward. Bai Daifu, who was dozing off, woke up when he saw a patient being brought in. It was his first day in charge of the medical ward, and there was already a patient. He was overjoyed. He took Tian Ruming's pulse. He determined it was internal injuries, but what puzzled him was that the injuries were somewhat severe. Therefore, he prepared to administer acupuncture treatment first. As he walked to the door, it suddenly opened. The sudden appearance startled him, causing him to drop his acupuncture kit. Looking closely at the approaching figure, it turned out to be Right Protector Yi Meng. He walked to Tian Ruming's bedside and said darkly, "Why are you at the Devil's Cave?" Seeing no reaction from Tian Ruming, he clapped his hands and used his internal energy to lift Tian Ruming from the bed. At this moment, Tian Ruming felt his body bound by an invisible force, unable to move. Right Protector Yi Meng continued, "If you keep pretending, I'll slap you." Hearing this, Tian Ruming abruptly opened his eyes. "How did you know?" Seeing this, Yi Meng laughed heartily. "Kid, you're indeed different. You're not even panicking seeing me. There aren't many interesting kids like you." Just as he finished speaking, Tian Ruming spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. Yi Meng immediately channeled a stream of pure internal energy into his body. Tian Ruming instantly felt much more comfortable. Seeing his condition improve, Yi Meng said, "Kid, I'll take you as my disciple. This man drinks 800 caddies of wine every day. And it has to be wine brewed from grains chewed by beautiful women. This man is the right protector of the heavenly demon cult, Yi Meng. He wants to take Tian Ruming as his disciple. But Tian Ruming is worried that he has ulterior motives. Knowing full well that he has conflicts with the 6 great sects and still wanting to take him as a disciple. He worries it's a trap, so he doesn't dare agree." Seeing Tian Ruming remain silent, Right Protector Yi Meng pulled a piece of paper from his chest. He slapped the paper onto the head of his bed. Kid, as soon as you entered the Devil's Cave, you were brought to the infirmary, and you have to stay here for 14 days. Do you know why? Others were also injured. But they weren't brought here. Hearing this, Tian Ruming realized that although many people were injured in the square earlier, he was the only one brought to the infirmary. Seeing Tian Ruming's hesitation, Yimeng continued. That's because they suffered internal injuries and can use their inner energy to heal. You, however, don't even have inner energy, so it's impossible to treat your internal injuries in a short time. Tian Ruming showed a dissatisfied expression, thinking to himself, who says it's impossible? I have a nano system, and I can fully recover in a few hours. But to avoid suspicion, I still have to stay here for 14 days. At this moment, he remembered the paper at the bedside and asked, could that paper be an internal cultivation technique? Yimeng proudly replied, that's right, it's this protector's internal cultivation technique. If you, kid, become my disciple, I'll immediately teach you this internal cultivation technique. At this time, after weighing the pros and cons, Tian Ruming knelt down. With a thud, he cowed out and said, Master, please accept my bow. Yimeng grinned and waved his hand. And Tian Ruming's body involuntarily stood up. Yiman instructed, first, memorize the inner cultivation method. I'll teach you how to circulate the energy next time. At this moment, only 400 people remained in the plaza, having passed the first stage of the examination. Those who failed were, eventually being knocked unconscious and carried away. The second stage of the examination involved teamwork. The successful candidates would be divided into groups. Coincidentally, Tian Ruming and Tian Wujing, who had always wanted to eliminate him, were placed in the same group. After everyone in the plaza had dispersed, Tian Wujing sought out the instructor in charge of their training. He wanted to go to the infirmary to find Tian Ruming and tell him the rules of the second stage of the examination. Seeing his team member taking the initiative, the instructor said happily, all right, I'll go talk to the medical pavilion for you and tell them the examination rules. Hearing this, Tian Wujing secretly rejoiced. He had originally planned to use this opportunity to cripple Tian Ruming at the medical pavilion, but his plan had failed. The next day, early in the morning, Yimeng went to Tian Ruming's room. Upon meeting him, he immediately asked if he had memorized the inner strength cultivation method. Fortunately, Tian Ruming had used the nano system to scan it the night before. Seeing that his disciple had internal injuries but wasn't cultivating, he felt angry. Having instructed Tian Ruming to sit cross-legged, Yimeng decided to use his internal energy to directly clear his blocked meridians. He struck Tian Ruming's back with his palm. A stream of pure internal energy flowed into his back. As the internal energy circulated through Tian Ruming's body, Yimeng's expression grew increasingly astonished. He found that all of Tian Ruming's 8 extraordinary meridians were open, allowing internal energy to flow unimpeded. Now, he was even more confident that he could make Tian Ruming master internal energy within 7 days. An hour later, Yimeng slowly withdrew his hand. By this time, he was slightly exhausted. And Tian Ruming had also memorized the way to circulate his energy. 4 days later, another man was suddenly brought to the originally quiet medical ward. It was said that he was injured by a sword during practice. Bai Difu carefully bandaged his wound. That evening, the man got out of bed. He took Bai Difu's scalpel, slowly walked to Tian Ruming's bed, looking at the sleeping Tian Ruming. He grabbed Tian Ruming's leg. The small knife sliced towards his hamstring. The moment he touched Tian Ruming's body, her nanosystem defense activated, instantly releasing a 100,000-volt current. His hair turned to ash under the powerful current. Tian Ruming tied him to the bed. She placed a cloth over his nose and mouth, telling, who sent you? The man stammered. You dare kill me in the medical ward? You think you can get away with it? That's right, in the Devil's Cave, anyone who harms a fellow disciple will be severely punished. Seeing him refuse to talk, Tian Ming thought of a way. He covered the man's mouth, bent his arm, bent his fingers back, took a needle, and stabbed it into his fingertips. The fingertips are connected to the heart. The intense pain made him squeeze his eyes shut, his whole body convulsing in agony. His mouth was covered, unable to make a sound. Just like that, all 5 fingers were filled with acupuncture needles. The man fainted several times during this process. Just as Tian Ruming grabbed his other hand to continue, the man's head shook like a rattle drum. Seeing this, Tian Ruming cut the cloth gagging him. Before the man could speak, Tian Ruming said directly, Tian Wujing. The man was stunned, not expecting him to already know. He immediately nodded, begging for mercy, and shouted, I won't tell anyone what just happened. Please, spare me. Tian Ruming used his internal energy to strike the man's sleeping point, knocking him unconscious. Yimeng watched the bound man. Because Tian Ruming's internal energy wasn't strong enough, the man was about to wake up. He struck the man's sleeping point again. The man fell into a deeper coma. Then he had Tian Ruming take the demon dragon pill. Tian Ruming endured the stench and put it in his mouth. The taste made him want to vomit. He clamped a hand over his mouth, fighting back the nausea. Then, sitting cross-legged, he absorbed the medicinal power, Yimang helping him maximize the absorption. But when he placed his hand on Tian Ruming's back, he was astonished to find the medicinal power completely absorbed, all thanks to the nano system. Time passed bit by bit, and Tian Ruming's internal energy rapidly increased. Finally, he gained half a jiazi of internal energy. He let Tian Ruming rest well. With internal energy as a foundation, Yimang planned to teach him his unique martial art, the butterfly dance blade technique. Tian Newman returned to the training grounds. He quickly integrated back into the training. Meanwhile, Tian Nguken was still waiting for him to fall behind and be expelled. To his surprise, every time the formation changed, Tian Newman adapted seamlessly. Even this guy couldn't stand it. But Tian Newman remained calm as ever. Seeing no opportunity, he created one. He signaled to a man. The man immediately understood. During training, the man took the opportunity to kick Tian Ruming in the butt. What he didn't expect was that Tian Ruming was fine. But he himself was sent flying. Tian Wujing gritted his teeth. That evening, back at the dormitory, Tian Wujing brought his followers to provoke Tian Ruming. He called him filthy-blooded. Tian Ruming retorted. Are you saying the sect leader is filthy-blooded? Tian Wujing hastily denied, that's not what I meant. Enraged, he grabbed Tian Ruming by the collar and threw a punch. But before his fist landed, Tian Ruming punched him in the face. Just as he was about to retaliate with the subduing demon fist, Tian Ruming turned and ran. Having started a fight, how could he let him go so easily? So, Tian Wujing led his subordinates in pursuit. Tian Ruming was very fast. He felt that the area was deserted enough. He stopped immediately. Tian Wujing also stopped. As soon as he steadied himself, Tian Ruming slashed at him. The speed and power of the attack left Tian Wujing no time to react. He never expected the man who once knew nothing of martial arts to be so formidable. Pressing his advantage, Tian Ruming attacked again with another slash. Tian Wujing hastily retreated to dodge, losing his balance. But then, a heavy blow. He struck Tian Ruming in the stomach. The powerful blow forced him back several steps. Tian Ruming didn't give Tian Wujing a chance to breathe, immediately appearing beside him. He slashed at him with his blade. The surrounding people only saw a fleeting afterimage. Tian Wujing dodged the attack. Then, his form suddenly changed, and he knocked Tian Ruming to the ground. Although Tian Ruming possesses martial arts skills, his practical combat experience is insufficient, making him no match for Tian Wujing. Ultimately, he had to rely on the nano system's assistance. To defeat Tian Wujing, Tian Ruming went to a secluded place alone. He realized his lack of practical combat experience, which can only be accumulated through battles and cannot be quickly improved. At that moment, he thought of the nano system and asked if it had a way to quickly increase his combat experience. The nano system replied that it could replicate virtual images of people Tian Ruming has encountered. Based on the martial arts he had displayed, I simulated it. Just like that, Tian Ruming began practicing against Tian Wujing's virtual image. After hundreds of practice matches, Tian Ruming could finally defeat Tian Wujing's virtual image. In the first battle, he only lasted 5 moves. The night before the exam, Tian Ruming was returning from practicing outside. On his way, he heard the sounds of fighting, so he went to investigate. Due to the darkness, he activated night vision. He saw Tian Wujing fighting a masked figure in black. Tian Wujing was clearly no match for the figure. Figuring they were from the same clan, Tian Ruming decided to help. While the figure was attacking Tian Wujing, he punched the figure in the stomach. The figure dodged the blow in the nick of time and quickly retreated. He looked at Tian Ruming. Then he jumped up and disappeared without a trace. Tian Ruming helped the 2 injured people back to the dormitory. Chan Tianwu's leg is injured, and he can't walk. Seeing their leader injured, everyone panicked. The assessment is tomorrow, but their leader's leg is injured and he can't walk. After briefly examining Tianwu's injury, the instructor carried him on his back, intending to take him to the infirmary. Seeing the instructor leave, Tian Ruming hurriedly followed, carrying someone on his back as well. The instructor, seeing him following, put on a stern expression. But he said to the injured person in his arms, "This kid's injury is indeed an accident, but your group is the only one where this happened after the assessment." As the instructor left, Tian Ruming carefully considered his words, only one. He immediately thought that it wasn't just their team that had been injured. The earlier drawing of lots was meant for them to know their opponents in advance and use some tricks to win. Having figured it out, Tian Ruming returned to the dormitory. Everyone was sighing because they wouldn't have a team leader for tomorrow's exam. Everyone had lost all faith in tomorrow's exam. At this moment, the bald guy spoke up, "There's still young Master Tian Ruming." Everyone looked at each other. Finally, everyone decided to let Tian Ruming be the team leader. Late at night, when everyone was sound asleep, Tian Ruming, dressed in black, left his dorm and headed to dormitory 7. His eyes had night vision capabilities. After climbing onto the roof to watch people sleep, Tian Ruming waited until everyone was sound asleep, dressed in black, and went to dormitory 7. He used a nanosystem to scan them, confirming they were all asleep, and then jumped down from the roof. He checked everyone's features, but didn't find the mysterious person who had injured Tian Wujing. He found the leader of Group 7, then produced a silver needle from somewhere. Stick needles into the meridian points on his legs. He went to Team Sex's quarters again and eliminated all 16 of them through scanning. 16 people. Tian Ruming immediately frowned. Team 6 has a total of 20 people, including the 3 girls upstairs. There's one more person. Could it be that this person discovered him? But then again, what could they do even if they discovered him? The next day, at the examination site, Tian Ruming replaced Tian Wujing as the leader of Team 8. The team leaders drew lots to choose their opponents. The previous draw divided them into 2 large groups, now the smaller teams are drawing lots again. Seeing his squad leader injured, Left Protector Li Yanming revealed a sinister smile. After the draw, preparing to leave, Tian Ruming noticed a man with a familiar figure, and had his nanosystem analyze him. The results showed a perfect match with the mysterious person who injured the 5th Heaven Realm cultivator. The examination began. Squad 8, led by Tian Ruming, faced off against Squad 5, led by Tian Yuanli. As the match started, Tian Ruming immediately used his nanosystem to change his squad's formation. The other side used the wind formation. After analyzing it with his system, he decided to counter with the fish scale formation. The 2 squad leaders clashed first. A powerful crash resounded with a boom. But neither side retreated. Tian Yuanli, surprised by his opponent's strength, pulled back and switched to the rebound formation. Tian Ruming then ordered his men to change to the left wing formation. Seeing them change to the left wing formation, Tian Yuanli planned to use the fish scale formation to break them. But just as they were about to clash, Tian Ruming's formation shifted again, transforming into the crane wing formation, flanking them from both sides. Tian Yuanli quickly told everyone to focus their attacks on both flanks. Tian Ruming, giving them no chance to react, shouted, "Switch, number 2. Hearing number 2, Tian Yuanli was a little surprised. What was the point of switching to the wind formation now? At this moment, everyone's attention was focused on what was ahead. No one knew that Tian Ruming had already discussed a plan with everyone. When he said switch, he actually meant the square formation. Just like that, Tian Ruming and his group surrounded everyone from Team 5. Under the intense pressure, some people gave up resisting and threw down their weapons. Just then, enraged, Tian Yuanli swung his sword at Tian Ruming. Tian Ruming used his shield to block the blow. The sharp blade instantly grazed his face and knee. In that critical moment, Tian Ruming used the butterfly dance blade technique. A flash of the blade was all that was seen, and Tian Yuanli's arm was severed. He couldn't believe it, turning to look at his arm. A severed arm fell to the ground, and the instructor immediately declared the match over. The instructor then announced that Group 8 had passed the second stage of the examination. This sparring match also surprised Left Protector Li Yanming, especially Tian Ruming's brilliant strategy and tactics, as well as the blow that severed Tian Yuanli's arm, which astonished him. He regretted not taking him as a disciple sooner. At this moment, the final sparring match began, and members from both sides entered the arena. Aside from their leader, the members of Group 6 were all limping. The leader of Group 6 knew that Tian Ruming was responsible for it all. He bore a grudge. Seeing their opponent's limited mobility, Squad 6 grew much more confident. They charged forward. Squad 6 employed the fishbone formation. The 2 sides clashed. The Squad 6 leader thrust his weapon and knocked away his opponent's shield. Before his opponent could react, he stabbed him. Team 6 members seized the opportunity to quickly close in, instantly turning the tables. He single-handedly defeated his opponent. After his victory, he glared menacingly at Tian Ruming in the distance. After the examination ended, Tian Ruming went to the Heavenly Devil Divine Sects library, where the bookshelves were overflowing with books. He picked up a martial arts manual and flipped through it. At the same time, the nanosystem began scanning, quickly scanning 15 martial arts manuals. At this moment, Tian Ruming discovered a large stone. The guard there told him that this large stone was left behind by the Heavenly Devil Ancestor. Inscribed on the large rock was the swordsmanship comprehension of the Heavenly Demon Patriarch. But Tian Ruming, the Guardian, was destined to seek and research something else. Tian Ruming, through the nanosystem, used 3D imaging to simulate it. Looking at these traces, a doubt arose in his mind. Could the sword marks engraved later be meant to cover the original ones? He used the nanosystem to separate the 2 different types of sword marks. Seeing the original sword marks, Tian Ruming was secretly astonished. Indeed, it wasn't a simple sword technique. These sword marks constituted a complete set of sword techniques. The nanosystem used 3D imaging to display the sword technique. A phantom image of a hand wielding a sword appeared, beginning to reconstruct the formation of the sword mark. The power of this move astonished Tian Ruming. He couldn't believe it and asked the nanosystem, "Is this just one move?" After receiving confirmation, Tian Ruming smiled even more brightly. He almost missed this sword technique because of the messy sword marks carved afterward. Tian Ruming was about to turn and leave when the nanosystem told him the 45 messy sword marks carved afterward were also a sword technique. This stopped Tian Ruming in his tracks. He had the nanosystem use 3D imaging to simulate the sword technique. Seeing his sword technique stronger than the previous one, Tian Ruming had a thought: could the later carved sword marks be meant to counter the previous sword technique? He had the nanosystem use 3D imaging to display both sword techniques, then had the two virtual images spar. He originally thought the initial sword technique was invincible, but unexpectedly, it was easily defeated by the later carved one. Indeed, just as he thought, the later carved sword marks were meant to counter the initial sword technique. He asked the guardian of this floor if every floor had such a stone. Tian Ruming excitedly went up to the second floor of the library. These messy sword marks unexpectedly conceal a supreme sword technique. The front is engraved with great windsong. The back is covered in sword marks. Through a nanosystem scan, a total of 56 sword marks were detected. Tian Ruming found a similar stone on the second floor, but at this time, it was surrounded by people reading books, so he could only extract the sword marks first for processing. He then frantically scanned martial arts manuals. While others hadn't finished even one, he had already scanned 158. To his surprise, he saw young sect leader Tan Mutian on the second floor. Normally, those with high-level martial arts in the sect wouldn't pay attention to these low-level manuals, but this guy was even meticulously studying low-level martial arts. Truly a cautious one, Tian Ruming made a mental note of him. After leaving the study, he went to his private training room. Tian Ruming wanted to quickly transfer the martial arts he had scanned into his own body. On his way, he was stopped by the leader of the sixth group. He had come to find Tian Ruming for revenge. Just as the two were drawing their weapons, ready to fight, Dama Sect's Tian Luzan appeared between them. He wanted to speak with Tian Ruming privately, hoping the man would postpone his revenge. But the man had been looking for Tian Ruming all day and wasn't about to let him go. More importantly, Tian Luzan's arrogant attitude was irritating. The man flew into a rage. He charged, his hand transforming into a blade, slashing towards Tian Luzan. Tian Luzan stood still, lightly raising his hand to block the attack. In the next instant, his hand was pressing against the man's throat. This move surprised even Tian Ruming, who was standing beside him. He had so easily neutralized the opponent's attack and subdued him. The man knew he was no match for Tian Luzan, so he had no choice but to turn and leave. Tian Ruming entered a battle stance, cautiously watching Tian Luzan. But Tian Luzan just smiled and bowed to Tian Ruming. This action left Tian Ruming unsure how to respond. Seeing Tian Ruming ignoring him, he awkwardly scratched his head and chuckled. Previously, the 6 great sects made things difficult for you, so this attitude is normal. Tian Ruming said coldly, "You already know that, so why would you expect a good attitude from me?" Tian Luzan declared loudly, "Because I like you. The moment I saw you cut off Tian Yuan Li's arm, I fell for you." Tian Ruming didn't believe his nonsense. "Stop talking rubbish. Tell me your real purpose." Seeing that Tian Ruming wasn't easily swayed, Tian Luzan revealed his purpose: join our Dama sect. Let's work together. Tian Ruming immediately refused his offer. Joining the Dama sect also meant giving up the qualification to compete for the position of young sect master. The atmosphere instantly became very. Just then, the nanosystem detected a powerful energy gathering in Tian Luzan's right hand, reminding Tian Ruming to dodge half a step to the left. Tian Ruming instinctively leaned to the side, preparing for the incoming attack. But Tian Luzan suddenly laughed out loud. Then he shook his head. "In that case, we will definitely confront each other head-on in the future." But before he could finish, Tian Luzan waved his hand. A deep gash immediately appeared in the ground. I only saw him condense his inner strength into a long saber. Seeing this, Tian Ruming was secretly astonished. He didn't expect his strength could already take form. "With this level of strength, you still want to take me as your disciple? You're far from qualified," he said, then turned and left. Tian Ruming originally thought that defeating Tian Wujing meant he was on par with the other young sect masters, but now it seemed he was still far behind. His goal wasn't to catch up to them, but to surpass them. Tian Luzan, having just left, was also astonished. He had originally planned to sneak attack Tian Ruming, but before he could even condense his power, Tian Ruming seemed to have sensed it beforehand and dodged. It seemed he wasn't just anyone. Over there, Tian Ruming arrived at his personal training room. He immediately had the nanosystem display a 3D image of the sword technique extracted from the second floor. First was the initial sword technique engraved on the stone tablet. This sword technique was faster and more complex than the one on the first floor. Next, he had the nanosystem display the sword technique engraved afterward. Looking at these 56 sword marks, Tian Ruming felt quite helpless. If he didn't practice with a sword, he basically couldn't master this sword technique. He then had the two sword techniques spar against each other through the 3D images. The sword technique engraved afterward still defeated the initial one in the final move. At this moment, a daring idea struck him. What if I use the butterfly dance blade technique against that sword technique? Tian Ruming was immersed in his own world. In his mind, he used the butterfly dance blade technique to try and break down that sword technique. As he practiced in his mind, his body also began to change. With a whooshing sound, Tian Ruming suddenly woke up. At this moment, he felt his body was much stronger than before. Circulating his energy, he discovered he had gained 10 years' worth of internal strength. He looked at his hands in disbelief. Could it be that I'd broken through? Now, using the butterfly dance blade technique, I feel even more proficient. Not only that, but my internal energy has also reached the external emission stage. Although I can't yet condense it into blade chi, after absorbing this demon dragon pill, I should be able to. I had the nano system transmit the scan sword technique into my head. Along with a splitting headache, the transmission is complete. Next is to enhance my physical strength to be able to coordinate with this peerless sword technique. Currently, Tian Ruming's internal skills have just reached the level of a top-tier expert. But his external skills are already at the peak expert level. My body has reached its current limit. If I want to further strengthen it, I can only train more. I looked at my strong physique in disbelief. I felt a surge of power coursing through me. So, I punched the wall of the training room. Unbeknownst to me, the leader of Team 6, who had a grudge against Tian Ruming, was training in the next room. The powerful blow immediately pierced through the wall. Before he could react, he was severely injured by the unexpected punch. He looked at the hole in the wall. Blood rushed to his head, and he fainted. The instructor was awakened by the explosion. Seeing someone injured, he carried the injured person to the infirmary. Tian Ruming apologized remorsefully. The instructor warned him that if this happened again, he would be forbidden from using the training room. Tian Ruming returned to the training room to continue practicing. He wanted to try the peerless sword technique carved on the stone in the training room. He swung his sword, using the first move of the peerless sword technique. When he performed the first move, he felt something was wrong. It wasn't flowing smoothly. So he had his nano system compare his supreme sword technique with the one on the stone tablet. He discovered that his own technique wasn't as fluid, and the final move was slower than the one on the tablet. He couldn't understand why, despite using the same technique, his was so inferior. Suddenly, he realized something. He hadn't tried incorporating his inner energy. However, the sword technique on the tablet only showed the movements, not the method of circulating energy. Could the Chinese characters engraved on the tablet hold a hidden secret? The characters on the stone tablet were actually a supreme inner energy cultivation method. These Chinese characters were all carved by the heavenly devil patriarch using his finger. Tian Ruming had the nanosystem analyze the characters. Looking at the images magnified countless times, he saw that beneath each character were a few. Beneath the character great were 4 dots. Could these 4 dots represent 4 acupuncture points? Thinking it over, Tian Ruming dismissed the idea. He then recalled a book on acupuncture points he had read earlier. The numbers in the acupuncture points themselves were arranged in order, but these 4 dots corresponded to the 19th point, which was strange. Normally, circulating qi begins from the qi high point in the Dan Tian. But if it were the qi high point, it should be number 7, shouldn't it? Just then, Tian Ruming seemed to have thought of something. The character die represents 3 calamities, plus the 4 dots below, makes it the number 7. Following this method, Tian Ruming found all the acupuncture points corresponding to the Chinese characters. Then, he connected them, thus creating a complete qi cultivation method. The next day, after finishing his meal, Tian Ruming was about to go to the training room to practice the qi cultivation method he discovered yesterday. But he was stopped by a man who said he wanted to spar with him. At first, Tian Ruming ignored him, but the man said that if he won, he would tell him some information about the 3rd stage of the examination. Therefore, Tian Ruming and the man went to the training grounds. With tensions high, a great battle was about to begin. The man charged towards Tian Ruming with all his might, repeatedly slashing at him. Tian Ruming easily dodged each of the horizontal slashes. He didn't know that these movements were too slow in Tian Ruming's eyes. Tian Ruming dodged the man's attack, then struck him in the chest with a palm, sending the man tumbling. Taking the blow, the man spat out fresh blood and crashed to the ground. Tian Ruming was startled. He hadn't controlled his strength and had used too much force, severely injuring the man. A moment later, the man regained some consciousness and sat up, supporting himself with his hands. He told Tian Ruming about the 3rd stage of the examination. The 3rd stage would likely still be a group examination, aimed at selecting high-ranking warriors. One must reach the level of a first-rate expert and possess more than 50 years of inner strength to become a high-ranking warrior. But the manuals they had seen in the study earlier were all second-rate martial arts. This examination would provide a first-rate manual, enabling one to perform the 7 devil sword formation. He heard from his father that 12 people would form a group to practice the 7 devil sword formation, and most importantly, the group formation would be voluntary. Therefore, the man wanted to join Tian Ruming's side, as he was already a first-rate expert. Half believing, Tian Ruming asked, "Why did you choose me?" "There are other young sect leaders, all very strong. The man told Tian Ruming that he had previously approached the young masters of the Xian-Mo sect and the Jian-Mo sect, but they refused. So in the end, he could only choose Tian Ruming, since they both used sabers. But Tian Ruming smiled and said, "I refuse." A top-class expert wanted to pledge allegiance to him. Yet he refused the man's offer. He had his nanosystem analyze the man's previous expressions. The conclusion was a high probability of lying. The most important point is that he said he uses a saber, but he didn't go to the Blade Demon sect's young sect master. Instead, he went to the Profound Demon sect and the Sword Demon sect. He's clearly deliberately avoiding the Blade Demon sect. Another point is that after the man failed, he went back to find Tian Liuxin of the Blade Demon sect. Analyzing this, they planned to arrange for someone to join Tian Ruming's group. On the day of the competition, they would have this person disappear, so they would be disqualified for lacking a member. What they didn't expect was Tian Ruming being so cautious. Meanwhile, Tian Ruming went to the training room. He used the nanosystem to simulate the fifth heavenly realm for further practice. This time, it wasn't as difficult as before. With just one move, he defeated the fifth heavenly realm simulation. He felt one heaven fifth realm opponent was too easy. So, he had his nanosystem create 10 heaven fifth realm opponents, each using a different martial art. The 10 heaven fifth realm fighters stormed towards Tian Ruming like a hurricane. Facing such a barrage of attacks, Tian Ruming struggled to cope. To dodge the attacks, he jumped. Only a cracking sound was heard. He had jumped too high, cracking the ceiling, and was forced to stop his training. At this moment, the instructor, hearing the noise, arrived, also feeling quite helpless. In the end, I could only arrange for Tian Ruming to train in a higher-level cultivation room. The intensity here is very high. To shatter the stones here, one must be a peak expert. Here, I chose not to continue training with the 10 fifth realm cultivators. I had the nanosystem create a virtual image of my master, Yimang. Just a virtual image, yet it made Tian Ruming feel a distinct pressure. Therefore, Tian Ruming decided to strike first. But Yimang stood still and blocked the attack. Before Tian Ruming could react, Yimang struck him under the chin with an upward palm strike. He then used the butterfly dance blade technique, slashing repeatedly. Tian Ruming was severely wounded in midair. Then he fell to the ground. Tian Ruming was no match for his master, but he didn't give up. He wanted to use his ultimate sword technique to fight his master one more time. Tian Ruming wielded his sword like a saber and charged towards him again. After using his ultimate sword technique, he could fight on par with his master. He used the final move of the ultimate sword technique. His sword stopped at Yimang's brow, but he was also struck by Yimang's palm. If this were reality, his body would have already been cut in two. He crawled up, checking the effects on Yimang's image, discovering that some parts of Yimang's illusory figure were also injured. He had actually managed to injure his master with his exceptional swordsmanship, but his martial arts skills were still far inferior. There were still 4 years until the Devil's Cave trial, and Tian Ruming was determined to surpass his master within those 4 years. But first, he had to start with the illusory image. 3 days later, the third stage of the Devil's Cave trial began. By this time, Tian Ruming could fight evenly against 10 opponents at the 5th heavenly realm. Left Protector Li Yanming announced the rules of the trial, and as the man had said, they could form teams freely. They need to learn the top-tier 7 swords of the Devil martial arts. Then, they must form the 7 Swords Devil formation and finally defeat the martial arts instructor to pass the third stage of the examination. The team leader, however, needs to defeat the instructor and obtain their token within 7 days to qualify. But the instructors will only use the 7 Swords of the Devil against them. On the first day, 3 people stepped forward to challenge the martial arts instructor. Tian Ruming unleashed her inner strength during the battle with her master. To become the team leader for the third stage of the examination, one must defeat the martial arts instructor and obtain the yellow token they possess. As soon as the examination rules were announced, Tian Ruming from Group 8 and Bai Qi from Group 12 stepped forward to challenge the instructor. The first match was initiated by Tian Wuyan. The match began, and both sides bowed to each other. Tian Ruming immediately used his nanosystem to scan and analyze. Tian Wuyan is one of the top 3 experts of the Heavenly Demon cult, known for his drifting cloud palm. The energy of both sides surged towards each other. The terrifying power created an energy shockwave. Tian Ruming found the instructor's moves very familiar. After careful consideration, he realized it was the breaking sword style carved on the stone. However, the 7 Demon Sword has 72 moves, while the breaking sword style only has 24. Perhaps the one who left the sword marks on the stone was the Sword Demon. And now, the two were clashing once again, their hands meeting. Their powers were equal, neither able to gain an advantage. Finally, Tian Wuyan decided to use his ultimate move to determine the victor. He thrust out a palm, the palm wind powerful. But as the force of his palm strike neared, it suddenly transformed into a long sword. Zhao Ji, unable to react in time, was struck in the shoulder by the sword. Tian Wuyan emerged victorious, claiming the gold token. The second match is between Tian Ruming and the instructor from Group 1. After both sides bowed, the match officially began. At this moment, the instructor was full of confidence. Tian Ruming decided to use the butterfly dance blade technique first. The extreme speed almost caught the instructor off guard. Tian Ruming pressed his advantage, slashing at the opponent's chest. The instructor used 70% of his power to block the blow. But the two were locked in a stalemate. 7 Devil Swords training, the fourth sword. In the blink of an eye, Tian Luzan saw a flaw in the 7 Devil Swords. He leaned to dodge the attack. Then he slashed with his blade. Seeing Tian Luzan easily break his attack, the instructor became enraged and used his full strength. The powerful internal force instantly shattered Tian Luzan's weapon. He commanded the nano system to automatically repair it. In this way, Tian Luzan repeatedly suffered internal injuries, but was continuously healed by the nano system. But now, the instructor grew more frightened with every blow. Clearly, Tian Ruming was internally injured, yet he still hadn't fallen. While the instructor was distracted, Tian Ruming struck him with his blade. He spat out a mouthful of fresh blood, losing a third of his internal energy. Everyone around was dumbfounded. Just like that, Tian Ruming won. He obtained the gold token. The final match is between Bai Qi and head instructor Hu Jinxiong. Bai Qi, skilled in kicking techniques, jumps up and delivers a kick towards Hu Jinxiong. Hu Jinxiong leans to the side. He spots an opening in Bai Qi's rear leg. In this critical moment, Bai Qi steps on Hu Jinxiong's hand. He then spins around and delivers another kick. But Hu Jinxiong severs one of his legs. But Bai Qi wasn't giving up. He adjusted his stance and charged towards Hu Zhengshuang again. Waiting until he got close, he feigned an attack, then launched a kick. Hu Zhengshuang was too fast, leaving only an afterimage. He instantly appeared behind Bai Qi. A heavy kick landed on his chest. Bai Qi was sent flying, crashing to the ground and spitting blood. Although he failed, he was still recognized by the Grand Instructor. At this moment, Tian Ruming noticed Bai Qi's injury. His face was pale. Just then, a group of people suddenly surrounded Tian Ruming. Having just won the gold token and become the team leader, Tian Ruming was surrounded by a group of people. The leader was Gao Wangbo of the Xianmo sect, a top-tier expert. The others were at least near top-tier experts, and after taking the demon dragon pill, they could all reach the level of top-tier experts. Having witnessed Tian Ruming's prowess, they chose to join his team. Tian Ruming told them he wasn't just looking for members to pass the third stage of the examination, but brothers who would share hardships and fight alongside him through all difficulties. This was implicitly a declaration of war against the other young sect masters, and upon hearing it, some began to withdraw, because they didn't want to get involved in the young sect master competition. At this point, there were only 3 days left until the competition. They were all alone. After considering, they decided to follow Tian Ruming. Including the 3 of them, Tian Ruming's group now had 9 members. He decided to personally teach them the 7 Devil Sword. Inside his private training room, Tian Ruming consumed the demonic dragon pill. With the nano system regulating the yin and yang balance within his body, his internal energy cultivation surpassed the first-rate level. He called for Bai Qi and zoomed in on the wounds on his neck and face. At this moment, he clenched his fist, further solidifying a certain thought. Meanwhile, Dama Sect's Tian Luzan was also inquiring about martial arts training. He had obtained the gold token. At the demonic cave's dining hall, Bai Qi was eating. Tian Jingyun of the Sword Demon sect wanted to invite him to join, but he flatly refused. Previously, Tian Liuxin of the Saber Demon sect had also invited him, but he didn't like those arrogant people. His goal was only to become stronger. While he was focused on eating, someone sat down opposite him. He said impatiently, "I'm not interested." But Tian Ruming wasn't angry and calmly said, "If you don't talk to me now, you might regret it later." Hearing this, Bai Qi immediately stopped eating. Then bang, he slammed his chopsticks down. "You're not the young sect leader chosen by the 6 great sects, yet you're even more arrogant than the previous 2. You think you can make me join like that?" Seeing this, Tian Ruming knew he'd misunderstood, and said directly, "I think you've been poisoned. Earlier, I saw your face was pale and had red spots appearing on it." Bai Qi thought of the poison demon sect's young sect leader, Tian Songqian, but he had always been wary of him. How could he have been poisoned? Seeing Bai Qi's doubtful expression, Tian Ruming called Bai Defu, who was eating, to examine him. They went to the medical room. Bai Defu had Bai Qi smell a special medicine. After he smelled it, he started coughing violently, and a dull ache spread through his chest. It could be confirmed that he had been poisoned. The reason why it hadn't been discovered earlier was that the poisoning was gradual, a little bit inhaled each time, making it subtle. At this moment, Bai Qi was even more certain that it was Tian Songqian's doing. Previously, while competing for the position of examiner for the second stage of the examination, he had fought Tian Songqian. Fortunately, it was discovered early. As long as he takes the antidote continuously for 7 days, he can fully recover. The reason Tian Ruming was able to discover it was because his mother died from Yanlan poison, and he was also slightly poisoned at that time. This time, he finally found the source of the poison. Just as Tian Ruming was going to find Tian Songqian, the young sect master of the demonic poison sect. A voice echoed in his head. It turned out that Tian Wujing was recuperating in the medical ward. He told Tian Ruming the location of Tian Songqian. Before leaving, Tian Ruming said, "If he's lying, I'll bring that brat to the bed next to yours to keep you company." This left Bai Difu and Bai Qi dumbfounded. Tian Ruming arrived at the mountainside opposite the Devil's Cave and indeed found Tian Songqian picking poisonous herbs there. Tian Ruming didn't waste any words and asked directly, "The Yanlan poison in Bai Qi's body, was it your doing?" Hearing him mention the Yanlan poison, Tian Songqian burst out laughing. "That's right, how could you not know about the Crimson Flame? Your filthy mother also died because of it." Before he could finish, Tian Ruming punched him in the face. On the mountainside, the rock Tian Songqian crashed into formed a large crater. At this moment, he still hadn't recovered, his face full of disbelief that he had been severely injured by one person. Just then, he saw Tian Ruming slowly walking towards him. He could feel a faint killing intent emanating from him. Even now, Tian Songqian still comforted himself, "The Devil's Cave has rules, he wouldn't dare kill me." Tian Ruming walked up to him, "The one thing you shouldn't have done was insult my mother with that foul mouth of yours." After speaking, he punched Tian Songqian again. At this moment, Tian Songqian swung his arm and threw a punch at Tian Ruming. Unexpectedly, it was caught. Tian Ruming squeezed. Only the sound of bones shattering could be heard. But at that moment, a large amount of green poisonous gas spewed from Tian Songqian's other hand. Tian Ruming felt his whole body go numb. It seemed he was done for. He had inhaled a large amount of the poisonous gas, and his face and hands were covered in it. He touched his swollen face, the skin peeling off to reveal white bone. Seeing his poison taking effect, Tian Songqian revealed a smug smile. But the next moment, as if he'd seen a ghost, Tian Ruming's swollen skin began to recover at a speed visible to the naked eye. Tian Songqian was terrified by the sight. He looked at Tian Ruming with fear in his eyes. He desperately pleaded for forgiveness, hoping Tian Ruming would spare him. Tian Ruming's mother had died from the Yanlan poison. How could he easily forgive Tian Songqian? He struck a pressure point on Tian Songqian's arm. Tian Songqian's 4 limbs were finally crippled by Tian Ruming. Now, Tian Songqian regretted using Yanlam against Bai Qi. He remembered the first time he heard the name Yanlam. At that time, he saw his mother give Yanlam to a masked woman. Less than a year later, Tian Ruming's mother died from an illness. Now, Tian Songqian's speech was slurred. Tian Ruming saw him muttering something, so he had the nano system analyze it. "It wasn't our demonic poison sect who killed your mother, but someone from the other 5 great sects." By analyzing his expression, Tian Ruming concluded he wasn't lying. But when she asked if he participated, the analysis showed he was lying. Therefore, Tian Ruming still chose to cripple his dantian. Tian Ruming brought the dying Tian Songqian to the medical ward. At this time, he was on the verge of death. Because he cultivated poison techniques, his dantian had absorbed a large amount of toxins. Now that his dantian was broken, the toxins were spreading throughout his body. If he wasn't detoxified in time, he would die. But the amount of toxins in Tian Songqian's body was too great. Bai Difu took out an antidote concocted by his master. "Give Tian Songqian the medicine. This medicine can only delay the onset of the poison. Tian Ruming doesn't want Tian Songqian to die here. He has the nano system analyze the toxins in Tian Songqian's blood to identify the poison, and then formulate an antidote." Bai Difu sees Tian Ruming preparing the medicine, so he tries some. Finding no problem, Bai Difu assumes Tian Ruming has studied medicine. But to detoxify, one must know what poison he's suffering from. Tian Ruming directly states the poisons afflicting Tian Songqian, and begs Bai Difu to trust him this time. There was no other way but to trust Tian Ruming. After Tian Songqian took the antidote, his condition immediately improved a great deal. Finally, Bai Difu reminded Tian Ruming, crippling someone's dantian is a serious offense. Be wary of the poison demon sect's revenge. In the demonic sects, those who survive aren't necessarily the strongest, but they are certainly the most cunning. After hearing Bai Difu's words, Tian Ruming left the medical ward, lost in thought. He hadn't gone far when Bai Qi caught up to him. He called out to Tian Ruming, about to speak. When Tian Ruming's subordinates arrived, they immediately surrounded him, inquiring solicitously. Seeing this, Bai Qi swallowed the words he was about to say. Back at their residence, Tian Ruming recounted what had happened. After hearing this, everyone worried that the demonic sect and the poisonous devil sect would seek revenge. Tian Ruming didn't regret crippling Tian Songqian's dantian, he just hadn't expected him to strike first. The next day, the Devil's Cave sect master, Li Yanming, summoned Tian Ruming to his office. Although the Devil's Cave sect didn't have a rule against crippling someone's dantian, the dantian was equivalent to a martial artist's life. If this wasn't addressed, such incidents might continue. Therefore, they decided to confiscate Tian Ruming's gold token and confine him to the Forbidden Grounds for 4 days. This meant he would only have 1 day left to reclaim his gold token upon his release. Imprisoned in the Forbidden Zone, Tian Ruming could focus on practicing his movement techniques. The man imprisoned in the Forbidden Zone unexpectedly discovered a hidden secret. Inside was hidden the Heavenly Demon Sword technique created by the Heavenly Demon Ancestor. On the ground were some markings. These markings resembled stone tablets. Stone tablets. Tian Ruming immediately thought of the stone in the study. He had the nano system display an image of the stone. Then, comparing it with these traces, they matched perfectly. At this moment, he noticed a large night-shining pearl in the center of the ceiling. The words demonic sword arts were carved on it. Judging by the markings, they were carved with a finger. Through the nano system's comparative analysis, it was confirmed to be the same person who carved Gale Song on the stone. Below it, there were several small holes, resembling the image of a dragon flying and a phoenix dancing. Tian Ruming counted them. There were 24 in total. Other than representing the 24 stances of the demonic sword arts, he couldn't think of any other connection. Just then, it occurred to him that these 24 points formed the image of a dragon flying and a phoenix dancing. Then he looked up. The wall opposite was so bright he couldn't see clearly. Could there be something hidden behind this dazzling light? He had his nanosystem adjust the light, and countless luminous pearls came into view. Moreover, each luminous pearl was engraved with tiny characters. Tian Ruming immediately understood. So he had his nanosystem magnify all the luminous pearls and extract the engraved characters. Then, I used 3D imaging to display it. Finally, the nanosystem filtered out 24 characters for me. The characters engraved on these luminous pearls could be a mantra. When I connected these 24 luminous pearls together, the shape perfectly resembled a dragon flying and a phoenix dancing. I magnified one luminous pearl and carefully examined the cultivation technique engraved on it. I discovered that the engravings perfectly matched the 24 moves of the Heavenly Demon Sword technique. These 24 luminous pearls are the moves of the Heavenly Demon Sword technique. I had the nanosystem transmit the mantra and the moves engraved on the luminous pearls into my mind, in order from the dragon's head to its tail. After the transmission was complete, I immediately began to practice. He was surrounded by sword chi. Each strike carried immense power. The powerful sword chi created countless craters in the surrounding ground. He didn't know how much time had passed, but he felt no fatigue. On the contrary, his whole body was brimming with power. He finally understood why the demonic heavenly sword art was hidden. Its techniques and cultivation method were separated. Scene change. After Tian Sunqian's Dantian was crippled, he was brought back to the demonic poison sect. His grandfather, Bai Wu, seeing his grandson beaten to such a state, wanted revenge, but killing was forbidden in the demonic cave. He then discussed with the devil cave master, proposing to personally train Tian Ruming and guaranteeing his safety within the devil cave. Li Yanming, also wanting to buy Tian Ruming some time, agreed to his request. Upon seeing Tian Ruming, Bai Wu immediately used his powerful internal force to lift him into the air. Then, he began to choke him. But Tian Ruming's face showed no fear. Instead, his eyes were full of defiance. Seeing his arrogance, Bai Wu became enraged. He struck out with a palm. Tian Ruming was sent flying into the cliff behind him. Then, Bai Wu waved his hand again. Tian Ruming returned to his hand. But when he saw Tian Ruming's provocative gaze, he couldn't help himself. Bai Wu silently praised, a natural-born talent, he has a boundless future. Before leaving, he gave Tian Ruming a black pill to swallow. Then he pushed him. Tian Ruming crashed into the cliff behind him. After Bai Wu left, he immediately had his nanosystem analyze the pill he had just taken. Unexpectedly, this pill had a similar effect to the demonic dragon pill. However, consuming it would dissipate his internal energy. That old Bai Wu was truly insidious. This way, Tian Ruming would be eliminated from the third stage of the examination. Expelled from the demonic abyss cave, after which he could make his life a living hell. But he didn't know Tian Ruming had a nanosystem. He had the nanosystem separate the poisonous components. A foul-smelling black liquid seeped out of Tian Ruming's body. Next, he circulated the Heavenless Heart technique, beginning to absorb the medicinal power of the pill. After completing the circulation, he felt his internal energy increase by half a jiazi. Unexpectedly, the demonic poison sect hadn't come to harm Tian Ruming, but to give him a gift. It was now the 4th day that Tian Ruming had been confined within the forbidden area. The members of his group were training in the forest. At this point, only 6 people remained in their group. After Tian Ruming had his nameplate revoked and was imprisoned in the Forbidden Zone, 2 people left the organization. In the end, Bai Qi chose to join the Tian Ruming organization. Moreover, after joining, he managed to see 6 nameplates from the instructors. Currently, Tian Luzan of the Blade Demon Sect has 4, Tian Jingyan of the Sword Demon Sect has 2, Sima Zhuo of the Shadow Demon Sect has 2, and 7 other people each have 1. Finally, the only nameplate remaining with the instructors is Chief Instructor Hu Jin Shuang's. At dinner time, Bai Qi decided to go to the training room to practice. He had the gold nameplate, and everyone was worried he would be bullied. Therefore, Su Feng and Wu Zhong accompanied Bai Qi to the training room. while Gao Wangyi and the other two went to eat. As Bai Qi and his two companions arrived at the training hall entrance, they were intercepted by the leader of Team 6 and a group of men. They wanted to steal Bai Qi's nameplate. Although Bai Qi's martial arts had reached a peak level, he couldn't withstand the combined attack of 30 first-rate experts. He could only give his nameplate to Su Feng and tell him and the other companion to escape with it. After receiving the nameplate, the two of them fled for their lives. However, Su Feng's movement technique was inferior. Seeing their pursuers closing in, No Trung created a diversion, and the two of them split up and ran. Su Feng went to the dining hall to find Chao Wangyi. As soon as Chao Wangyi heard about it, he immediately ran to the training hall. By the time they arrived, they saw Bai Qi surrounded by a group of people. Chao Wangyi ran to Bai Qi's side. The person standing before them was Daoma's own Tian Luzan. He thought Tian Luzan stole the nameplate, so he wanted to attack. But Bai Qi stopped him. It turns out Tian Luzan happened to be passing by and saw someone attacking Bai Qi, whom he had always wanted to take as a disciple. So he intervened. The group was no match for Tian Luzan. Having obtained the gold nameplate, he left with his subordinates. Before leaving, Tian Luzan told Bai Qi to think it over, saying he wasn't in a hurry. After they left, everyone went to check on Wu Zhong, who was lying on the ground. He had run off with the gold nameplate earlier, but they eventually caught up to him. Wu Zhong held out until the very end to protect the nameplate. Those people broke all his fingers and his leg trying to steal it. Bai Qi was also stabbed in the back during the fight. Su Feng carried Wu Zhong to the infirmary. With the nameplate gone, they could only wait for Tian Ruming to come out tomorrow and figure out what to do next. 4 days later, 2 instructors went to the Forbidden Grounds to release Tian Ruming. As soon as they opened the door, they were frightened. His sharp gaze, his powerful physique, he didn't look like someone who had been imprisoned in darkness for 4 days. The first thing Tian Ruming did after coming out was ask how many gold nameplates were left. After learning that only one remained in the hands of the head instructor, he chose to directly challenge the head instructor, Hu Jinxiang. In the Maquat Dong Plaza, Tian Ruming and Hu Jinsuang faced each other. Their eyes were both sharp. A great battle was about to erupt. Tian Ruming flashed, appearing before Hu Jinsuang. His speed surprised Hu Jinsuang. But he was still full of confidence, because he was completely unfamiliar with Tian Ruming's saber techniques. When the two clashed, he realized that Tian Ruming's saber techniques were no ordinary techniques. He looked closely. A scornful smile playing on his lips. This is the 7 Devil Sword? So what if you change a few moves? Seeing Tian Ruming use the 7 Devil Sword so proficiently, Hu Jinxiang decided to take this fight seriously. He simultaneously used 4 moves of the 7 Devil Sword. Everyone saw countless afterimages, the moves in his hands constantly changing. Meanwhile, Tian Ruming's expression was grave. He used the Heavenly Devil Sword technique to attack, his aura exploding around him, his body moving like lightning. The two were evenly matched, neither gaining an advantage. During the fight, Hu Jinxiang realized his sword technique was too powerful. He dared not use his protective true qi, fearing he wouldn't be able to withstand it. And at that moment, Hu Jinxiang was struck by one of Tian Ruming's sword energies. Everyone's eyes went wide. Hu Zhengshuang used all his strength to block the sword energy that was about to pierce him. Then, with a whoosh, he deflected the sword energy away. His aura surged rapidly. He wanted to fight Tian Ruming with all his might. But at this moment, his expression froze. Then, his aura quickly dissipated. He said weakly, "I'll leave the yellow card to you." Hu Zhengshuang admits defeat. Just then, Bai Qi suddenly called out to Tian Ruming. Tian Ruming, seeing Bai Qi, was stunned. "What are you doing here?" His next action surprised Tian Ruming even more. Bai Qi knelt down and kowtowed, saying, "Thanks to young master Tian Ruming, I was saved from the poison of the poison demon sect. You were imprisoned in the forbidden zone and suffered because of it, how could I not be grateful?" But right after, Bai Qi's face flushed red. "I, Bai Qi, am willing to become your subordinate and will serve you even more diligently." This made Tian Ruming break out in a cold sweat. Meanwhile, Li Yanming and Hu Jinxiang were talking on the roof. It was he who had just transmitted a message to Hu Jinxiang, telling him to stop. They both recognized that the sword technique Tian Ruming used was similar to the heavenly demon sword technique used by their sect leader. The heavenly demon sword technique is the #1 demonic sword technique created by the heavenly demon ancestor, passed down only to the sect leader. Li Yanming often followed the sect leader and had seen the heavenly demon sword technique. And while the sword technique Tian Ruming used was very similar, it felt even more refined. They all thought of the stone left behind by the demonic ancestor. In the end, the two of them couldn't figure it out and could only keep the matter a secret for now. Tian Ruming accepted Bai Qi, and everyone was about to leave, when a beautiful young woman suddenly called out to Tian Ruming. She walked up to Tian Ruming, knelt down, and said, "I heard you sacrificed yourself for your subordinates. I'm deeply moved. If you don't mind, I, Hu Songhua of the Soulbreaker sect, am willing to follow you." He then accepted the eldest son of the Chen family, Chenghua. Noticing a few members were missing, he asked where the others were. Since it was crowded and complicated there, Chao Not led them to a small grove and recounted the events of the past few days to Tian Luzan. Two people left, and Wu Zhong was seriously injured by the Harmony Guild while protecting his nameplate. This time, after hearing this, Tian Luzan didn't rush off to seek revenge, but instead became even calmer. He looked at everyone and said seriously, "I've taken note of this grudge, and I will repay it tenfold." 3 people made a plan to steal Tian Luzan's nameplate. Unexpectedly, one of them was defeated right at the start. Previously, when Bai Qi's badge was stolen, Tian Luzan was the mastermind. He ordered Yu Bingshui and He Yiming to steal Bai Qi's badge, then used the opportunity to recruit him. Because Yu Bingshui suffered internal injuries and was taken to the medical ward, He Yiming took him to find Tian Luzan to demand the badge. Unexpectedly, not only did he fail to recruit Bai Qi, but he also used the excuse that they hadn't completed the mission to refuse to give them the badge. Now, he's ordered them to steal Tian Luming's badge. And he's having Lian Ba go with them. Furthermore, he promised them that if they succeed in stealing the badge, he'll take them as his subordinates. Hearing this, He Yiming's expression changed slightly. They sought out Hoa Not Min again. Because he had a grudge against Tian Luzan. They quickly reached an agreement. They found Tian Luzan in a small forest. At that time, Tian Luzan was thinking of ways to find Hoa Not Min for revenge. He didn't expect him to walk right into his trap. Tian Luzan smiled, looking at Hoa Not Min. This feeling made Hoa Not Min very uncomfortable. "You can still smile? You don't know the current situation? You're such a fool." But Tian Luzan calmly said, "I should be the one saying that." Just then, Cat Nin, standing behind them, suddenly shouted at Hoa Not Min and his companion, "Drop your swords." Seeing Cat Nin pointing his sword at them, Hoa Not Min and his companion looked bewildered. It turned out they had been surrounded. Tian Luzan had found the people who stole their nameplates yesterday. Vu Bin Tuet said smugly, "We have the advantage in numbers." Hearing this, Tian Luzan laughed. He lightly punched Vu Bin Tuet. "Before making a move, Tian Lumang kept reminding me to control my strength. But it seems I still couldn't control it." With just one move, Yu Bingshue's group was knocked unconscious. Su Feng grabbed He Yiming by the collar. "You broke Wu Zhong's fingers and stole his nameplate." "Where is it?" He Yiming replied, "Lian Ba has it." Enraged, Su Feng punched the man repeatedly in the face. Finally, Bai Qi stopped him. From He Yiming, they learned that Tian Luzan had ordered him and his accomplices to steal the nameplates, and Tian Luzan's goal was to obtain Bai Qi. Bai Qi, enraged, punched him, knocking him to the ground. Su Feng, filled with fury, pinned the man down and started hitting him. Lian Ba finally woke up. Just then, Gao Wanyi spoke up. He asked the group, "Do you believe Tian Liuxin's promise? Do you think he'll really give you a gold token?" He Yiming began to have doubts. He'd never really trusted Tian Liuxin, but Yu Bingxue had insisted. Those who had woken up began to murmur amongst themselves. There were 19 of them, 1 token wasn't nearly enough. If only 1 token was given, they would inevitably fight each other. Something Tian Liuxin surely anticipated. Gao Wanyi continued, "Tian Liuxin has deceived you all like this. Don't you want revenge?" Thanks to Ji Ran's judgment, their numerical advantage is gone. Lian Ba knew that if this continued, they would all die. He tried to convince He Yiming to continue cooperating with him. Young Master Tian Luzan promised to take you in as his subordinates. "Why don't you believe him?" He Yiming asked directly, "Will he give us 2 gold plates? There are 19 of us. We need at least 2. Hearing this, Lian Ba understood why they had betrayed him. "I can suggest to young Master Tian Luzan that he give you 2. After saying that, he thought to himself, "I'm only suggesting it. Young Master Tian Luzan can refuse. That way, I won't be lying." Just as he was gloating, Fate appeared behind him and struck with his blade. Ripple dodged in a panic. At that moment, Harmony also charged forward to attack Fate. But before his sword could land, Fate caught it. With a burst of strength, he snapped the sword in 2. As he channeled 70% of his internal energy into the arrow, Fate broke it. He was kicked in the back of the neck. It turned out to be White Banner who, seeing him make his move, delivered the kick. At this moment, everyone was fighting chaotically. Hoa Not Min was no match for Bak Kai, and was getting beaten badly. Lin Ba threw down his weapon and knelt, begging Tian Luzan for mercy. He thought to himself, "No matter how angry you are, the opponent has already begged for forgiveness, how can you still attack?" To his surprise, Tian Luzan grabbed his head and slammed it into the ground. Then, he snarled, "You treat me like this, young Master Tian Luzan will not spare you." He hoped to use Tian Lushan's reputation to frighten Tian Ruming. But he was wrong. Tian Ruming forced his head to the ground. Just like that, Lian Ba fell unconscious. Meanwhile, the others had already been subdued. He Yiming, for disobeying, had his pressure points sealed. Tian Ruming walked over and grabbed his hand. With a crack, Tian Ruming broke his finger. Unable to cry out due to his sealed pressure points, He Yiming's face turned pale. Seeing He Yiming in pain, Tian Ruming decided to give him another one. With a crack, another finger was broken. At this moment, He Yiming's eyes were filled with resentment. Seeing his defiance, Tian Luzan slapped him. Then he ordered his men, break a leg and a finger of all of He Yiming's companions. Just as Tian Luzan turned to leave, He Yiming used the defying heaven demonic skill. Veins bulged on his body, his aura exploded, and his eyes turned bloodshot. He then lunged towards Tian Luzan. In that critical moment, Bai Qi delivered a spinning kick, hitting He Yiming. But Hoa Not Nin only paused momentarily. On the contrary, Bok Kai's leg was broken by the powerful recoil. What surprised everyone even more was that Hoa Not Min, who was exploding with power, had his hand easily grasped by Tian Luzan, who then swung him and threw him hard to the ground. Next, Tian Luzan jumped up and stomped on his head, burying it deep in the ground. By this time, the others had all had a leg and a finger broken. Having learned that Tian Luzan was the mastermind, they had planned to take revenge, but now they lacked the numbers, with Bok Kai being their only top expert. But then, someone from the Harmonious Brightness sect said, "There aren't enough people. We'll help too." Even so, there still weren't enough high-level fighters. Tian Luzan thought for a moment, as if he had come up with something. "Get ready, we're going to find Tian Luzan right now." At that moment, Tian Luzan was practicing the Seven Devil Sword with Zhu Yuan. He was discussing the techniques with Yu Bingshui. Suddenly, a group of people approached from afar, each carrying a sack. The person in the lead had their face covered, making them unidentifiable. From the voice, it sounded like Lian Ba. Everyone stopped and dropped the sacks from their shoulders. Inside were Bai Qi and Gao Wanyi, both unconscious. Another person, also masked, lay with them. Tian Luzan pointed at the masked figure and asked, "Who is this?" Lian Ba replied, "It's Tian Luzan." Tian Luzan focused his internal energy in his hand and slowly approached Tian Luzan. With a ripping sound, he severed Tian Luzan's hand. With a thud, Tian Luzan collapsed. But when he saw the face clearly, his expression froze. He recognized Lian Ba. Before he could figure out who Lian Ba was, the other man punched him in the face. The powerful blow sent Tian Luzan flying. Everyone around shouted at Lian Ba, "What are you doing?" Just then, Gao Wanyi and Bai Qi, who were lying on the ground, suddenly stood up. Gao Wanyi punched Yu Bingshui. They still hadn't recovered, thinking that Lian Ba had betrayed them. When Lian Ba took off his mask, they finally saw it was Tian Luzan. Lian Ba's voice was altered using a nanosystem. At this moment, Chenghua, seeing Tian Luzan had been tricked, immediately charged forward to attack him. Tian Luzan dodged the attack, then snatched the yellow name tag from his chest. Finally, he landed a punch, causing him to cough up blood on the spot. Just then, my nanosystem alerted me to a powerful energy surge emanating from 60 meters behind me. Tian Luzan spun around and shouted, "Everyone, down!" Just as everyone hit the ground, a saber's shadow descended from the sky. Tian Luzan quickly used the heavenly demon sword technique to block the attack. Sword energy clashed with saber energy, creating a loud explosion. As the dust settled, Tian Luzan slowly approached. Tian Luzan was different now. Back then, outside the training room, he was just a kid with no internal energy cultivation. Tian Luzan felt a pang of regret for not having finished him off then. At this moment, he was deadly serious. "This time, I will cripple him for sure." Just then, Tian Luzan made his move. He suddenly vanished from his spot, his speed so fast that everyone only saw an afterimage. In the next instant, he appeared above Tian Luzan. Using the second move of the Xian Mo blade technique, he swung his blade down. Tian Luzan's strength was greater than his, so he could only use all his might to defend. In the end, he chose to use his sword. Tian Luzan had assumed he would use blade techniques, but unexpectedly, he used sword techniques. Seeing him use his sword to block the attack, Tian Luzan wasn't worried. His blade techniques were varied and unpredictable, ordinary sword techniques couldn't withstand them. While he was feeling smug, Tian Luzan's sword suddenly flashed out, blocking the attack. This truly made him suspicious. Tian Luzan said scornfully, "You should stick to the butterfly dance blade technique. Stop using that clumsy swordsmanship." "You think I don't know it?" Hearing this, Tian Luzan was secretly startled. Could he also know the broken sword secret carved on the stone? But the next words made Tian Luzan breathe a sigh of relief. "You learned from the manual, modifying the 7 devil swords moves. That's useless against me." Tian Luzan stretched out 5 fingers, 5 moves. 5 moves is all it takes for me to cut off your hand. Hearing this, Tian Luzan laughed. "Then let's make a bet." "Let's bet this gold token of mine." Tian Luzan laughed loudly. "Fine. I have 4 tokens, so I'll definitely profit. If I win, your subordinate, Bai Qi, will also be mine." Tian Luzan looked at Bai Qi in the distance. Bai Qi chose to trust Tian Luzan and nodded slightly. This time, Tian Luzan let Tian Luzan attack first. Tian Luzan used the broken sword style and charged towards Tian Luzan. But Tian Luzan still thought it was the 7 devil sword. He used the 4th move of the mysterious devil blade technique, the mysterious devil blade. As the fight progressed, Tian Luzan grew more and more puzzled as to why the 7 devil sword was so powerful. Many of the moves were very strange, and he found it increasingly difficult to defend. He couldn't continue like this. He hastily retreated, preparing to widen the distance. He tried to use the fifth move of the profound Ghostblade art, but before he could execute it, Tian Ruming appeared before him. Before he could react, sword chi enveloped him. Only a scream was heard. The sword chi left countless wounds on his body. Tian Ruming seized the opportunity, thrusting his sword into his shoulder. Then, with an upward flick, an arm flew out. Tian Luzan clutched his injured shoulder, trembling. Seeing this, his subordinates rushed forward to help. Tian Numan pointed his sword at Tian Luzan's other shoulder. Move, and I'll sever his other arm. Tian Luzan, his arm severed by Tian Numan, collapsed to the ground. He was still immersed in Tian Numen's swordsmanship. How could the Seven Devil Sword be so powerful? Even now, he still thought it was the Seven Devil Sword. Tian Ruming said coldly, if you still think that's the Seven Devil Sword, then your understanding of swordsmanship is far too lacking. Hearing this, Tian Luzan was stunned. Someone had once said the same thing to Tian Ruming. Completely convinced, Tian Luzan had his subordinate give the gold token to Tian Ruming. After saying this, he fainted from excessive blood loss. Wu Bingshui reluctantly handed the token to Tian Ruming, saying, when I recover, I will definitely avenge this day. Tian Ruming took the token. He punched Wu Bintuet. Wu Bintuet clutched his stomach, lying on the ground, dry heaving. We kept our promise, what more do you want? But Tian Numan laughed, I didn't say handing over the gold badge was the end of it. I just learned a move from Tian Luzan, leaving no loose ends. Wu Bintuet snarled, you're truly vicious, the opponent has already lost and you still want to go this far. Tian Numan slapped him. He ordered everyone, break the legs and arms of the others. Hearing this, their faces paled. Then, only pained cries could be heard. Tian Ruming gave Cat Nin 2 tokens. After receiving them, he was deeply moved. He hadn't expected Tian Ruming to give him 2 tokens in this cannibalistic demonic sect. Such generosity was unexpected. He knelt down. And the whole group immediately followed suit, kneeling on the ground. We swear to follow young Master Tian Ruming to the death. Meanwhile, inside the Devil's Cave's office, He Yiming, still unconscious, was using the heaven-defying demonic art. Li Yanming used his internal energy to suppress his heaven-defying demonic art. Suddenly, He Yiming opened his eyes. Li Yanming immediately asked, where did you learn the heaven-defying demonic art? He Yiming pretended ignorance, I don't know what you're talking about. Seeing his dishonesty, Li Yanming waved his hand. And He Yiming, enveloped by internal energy, was suspended in midair. He simply moved his finger. He twisted Hua Yiming's arm into a spiral. Li Yanming slowly said, you're so young, yet you've already mastered the defiance of heaven demonic art. This proves your sect is also suspicious. Do you not care that the extreme martial sword sect was annihilated? Then a crack was heard as Hua Yiming's leg was also twisted into a spiral. But he still refused to speak. Li Yanming gripped his throat. The extreme martial sword sect was actually one of the 2 hidden branches of the sword demon sect. Hearing this, Hua Yiming was secretly shocked, then he gritted his teeth. Then, fresh blood flowed from his mouth. Li Yanming quickly let go, but it was too late. To prevent his secret from being exposed, He Yiming bit his tongue and committed suicide. Meanwhile, after defeating Tian Luzan, Tian Ruming saw his ranks swell with new recruits. When Tian Ruming announced his intention to create a new heavenly demonic god cult, everyone chose to leave. Most of those who left were subordinates of the 6 great sects. However, some members of smaller sects remained. Just then, a voice rang out, young Master Tian Ruming. Can we meet? Looking at the newcomer, those around him urged, sect leader, you must recruit him. This man is actually the most handsome man in the heavenly demon sacred sect. He slowly removed his mask, revealing his true face. Before this, he came to join the Heaven's Mandate sect. Those around him immediately advised the sect leader to recruit him. Because he's the grandson of the 9th elder, one of the 12 elders of the demonic sect. When Kuwei's decision to join the Destiny's Will group was out of desperation. He had refused Tian Yochi's invitation several times. After which, his arms and legs were broken. He then tried to join other groups, but they all rejected him because of his broken limbs. Some did accept him, but he was ultimately returned. It turned out that Tian Luzan was behind it all. Initially, he only wanted to become a subordinate of Destiny's Will, but Destiny's Will demanded loyal followers. Before going to the Devil's Cave, my grandfather always told me to remain neutral. I hoped Heaven's decree would give me 3 days to consider, but they refused my request. Upon hearing this, Heaven's decree immediately had their nanosystem scan me to see if I was lying. But the system reported it couldn't scan. Upon closer inspection, they discovered my facial skin was artificial. Then the nanosystem scanned my entire body and concluded I was female. Heaven's decree pointed at Wen Kuwei, you're a woman? When Kuwei hurriedly interrupted Heaven's decree, he expressed his willingness to follow Tian Ruming. Then, Tian Ruming took him to a deserted place. Wen Kuwei was someone the 6 great sects of the Demon Dragon Palm sect had always wanted to recruit. His father died in the line of duty, and his mother died from complications after giving birth to him and his younger brother. His twin brother was born with a disability, but this was kept secret from the public. Before this, they had constantly sent spies, hoping to form an alliance with Wen Kuei. If the alliance succeeded, his disabled brother would be taken to the Devil's Cave. The 6 great sects would then use every means to kill him. Finally, with no successor, the Demon Dragon Palm sect would be seized by them. So, he could only disguise himself as a man and bring his younger brother into the Devil's Cave. As long as they achieve good results, the 6 great sects won't dare to act rashly. At this moment, Wen Kuei suddenly took out a mask. He gave the mask to Tian Ruming to put on. He slowly removed the mask from his own face. Seeing his true face, Tian Ruming's heart pounded. Because his limbs were broken and it was inconvenient, he had Tian Ruming help him put on the mask. After putting on the mask, Van Kuei asked, "What room number is young master in?" Tian Ruming replied, "Number 7, in the 4th quarter. Van Kuei said with a smile, "Then from today onwards, I am young master's subordinate. I must move my belongings there." Hearing this, Tian Ruming seemed to think of something. Room number 7. Meanwhile, Tian Wujing's injuries had completely healed. He had snatched a golden token from Han Bin Gwyn of the demonic sect. At this time, he still considered Tian Ruming his greatest rival. As the number of people joining increased, Tian Ruming divided his subordinates into 6 groups. The leader of Group 1 is Chao Vong Nat. The leader of Group 2 is Bok Kai. The leader of Group 3 is Ho Song Hoa. The leader of Group 4 is Trin. The leader of Group 5 is Cat Neen. He's still in charge of the original members of his group. This time, Fate's Decree has the largest team in the Devil's Cave. With modern technology in these ancient times, Fate's Decree can simultaneously instruct dozens of people practicing the 7 Devil Sword. Moreover, he can accurately point out everyone's mistakes. He has a nano system. He uses the nano system to film everyone. Then, I set the comparison model to the 7 Devil Swords. That way, the nano system, through comparative scanning, will tell Tian Ruming where they're making mistakes. And Tian Ruming points out each person's mistakes and provides further guidance. This whole process left Wen Kuei, who was watching from the side, in disbelief. He had originally intended to help by observing and pointing out who wasn't performing well. But now it seemed completely unnecessary. Under Tian Ruming's careful instruction, everyone's understanding of the 7 Devil Swords deepened. The initial plan was for everyone to be able to use the 7 Devil Swords perfectly within 7 days. However, as time went on, the techniques of the 7 Devil Swords became more and more varied, and some people with weaker foundations needed more time. Some groups that were short of members before have now filled their ranks. Group leaders with real strength have also joined one after another. Shu Men Tai Zai Tian. Just like Hu Songhua's close friend, Lian Murong, finally joined as well. During this period, Gao Wangyi and Hu Songhua also reached the peak expert level. With the increasing number of peak experts under his command, Tian Ruming decided to select the 6 strongest individuals and appoint them as the 6 great guardians. These 6 individuals were meant to deal with the 6 great sects in the future. Through a competition among the 6 of them, ultimately, Bai Qi ranked first, followed by Gao Wangyi in second, Hu Songhua in third, Taizai Tian in fourth, Yu Shaojin in fifth, and Wen Kuei in sixth. On the morning of the 3rd stage examination, the Dharma Protector suddenly arrived at the Devil's Cave. The day before, during the high-level meeting, the elders proposed changing the rules of the 3rd stage of the examination, and the sect leader finally agreed. Li Yanming was puzzled. The sect leader had been suppressing the 6 great sects this whole time, so why did he agree to their proposal this time? The Dharma Protector then took out a letter from his sleeve. "This is the plea for help from our demonic-shaped sect. Several requests were rejected. My proposal this time was quickly approved." After reading it, Li Yanming burned the letter. The 3rd stage of the Devil's Cave examination began. At this moment, the instructors escorted a group of bound and blindfolded people forward. Li Niamin announced, "Before the examination, there's a change I need to tell you all about." The instructors then brought out a batch of real swords. The previous examinations had all used wooden ones. Everyone immediately tensed up. The previous examination involved using the 7 Devils Sword formation to defeat the martial arts instructors, and this one also involves the 7 Devils Sword formation. However, their opponents this time are the prisoners before them, all experts from the Martial Alliance and the Heroes League. The criteria for passing this examination is to use the 7 Devils Sword formation to kill them. And if these prisoners win, they'll be released, so they'll be fighting for their lives. The first match will be Sima Tuo's group. Everyone formed the 7 Devils Sword formation, preparing for battle. But the man, seeing they were all just kids, scoffed. Right from the start, they attacked him using the 3rd stance of the 7 Demon Sword. Facing attacks from multiple directions, the man was no slouch. He moved to dodge the strikes. But he was still grazed by a sword. At this moment, they began to change their formation. During the transition, 2 of them made a mistake. The man spotted the opening and thrust his sword. Just as the sword was inches away from them, the man suddenly stopped moving, a sword piercing his body from behind. The second match was Tian Luzan's group. Their opponent was an expert from the Xiap Phi sect. Before they could form their formation, the Xiap Phi sect member attacked. Although they managed to organize a defense, one of them had their throat slit, and the others, fearing for their lives, retreated. The Xiap Phi experts seized the opportunity and successfully broke their formation. But Tian Luzan, catching him off guard, punched him in the back with the subduing demon's unreturning fist. Then, the remaining members used the first stance of the seven demons' sword to finish him off. After several battles, the prisoners desperately resisted. And finally, it was Tian Luzan's group's turn to fight. The prisoner fighting them had a burly physique and a fierce expression. He stepped onto the platform and looked around as if searching for something. The Grand Instructor untied the prisoner, warning Tian Luzan to be careful. After the seven devil sword formation was set up, the man saw Tian Luzan. At that moment, he suddenly gave a sinister smile. He used the forbidden demonic art of defying heaven. As soon as they clashed, their swords meeting, the sword in the Tian Luzan member's hand shattered into pieces. Seeing this, Lineage men revealed a shocked expression. This person's power was definitely beyond that of a peak expert. Beside him, Chief Instructor Ho Chan Suong quickly drew his sword. But at that moment, the man grabbed a member of the group and threw him towards the oncoming Ho Chan Suong. Looking closely, the man's veins bulged all over his body, his eyes bloodshot, staring fixedly at Tian Luzan. Only then did Tian Luzan understand that he was their target. The man roared and charged towards Tian Luzan. But at this moment, there was no fear in Tian Luzan's eyes. Demonic heavenly sword technique, first form, lion's roar. A single slash brought him down. Just then, the man using demonic arts, who was lying on the ground, suddenly stood up and roared madly. The other members covered their ears and turned to flee. Looking closely, Tian Luzan was still calmly standing there. It turned out his nanosystem had automatically activated its defense system, helping him block the sonic attack. Seeing that Tian Luzan was unaffected, the man flew into a rage and charged towards him. But at the last moment, a figure appeared between the two, severing the man's arm. Looking closely at the newcomer, it turned out to be his master, Yimeng. The man still wanted to continue attacking. With a flash of blade light, all the man's meridians were severed. At this moment, the man wanted to commit suicide. Yimeng struck him on the head with a palm, and the man fell unconscious. Meanwhile, Li Yanming had already defeated the seven men. Suddenly, a group of masked people appeared and untied the prisoners. The third stage of the examination still had to continue, so he flashed and left the competition area. Outside the Devil's Cave, a group of people stood neatly. Yiman shouted, "Let's go," to the Sword Demon Sect's headquarters. All members of the Heavens Mandate group passed the test. Due to unforeseen circumstances, the subsequent test reverted to sparring with martial arts instructors. Those who passed the third stage of the test became high-ranking warriors of the demonic sect, and their weapons, confiscated upon entering the demonic cave, were returned. This time, Li Yanming announced the content of the fourth stage, within 4 years. Regardless of the martial arts used, defeating a martial arts instructor means passing. However, each person only has one chance. To defeat an instructor, one must have peak-level strength. As soon as everyone dispersed, Tian Ruoming was called away by Chang Wenru, a martial arts instructor from the Palm Scripture School. Chang Wenru took Tian Ruoming to a secluded place. It turned out he wanted revenge. Before, Fate's decree injured him, forcing him to stay in the infirmary for 28 days, which humiliated him in front of everyone. And now, Fate's decree wasn't afraid of him, because Eternal Scholar had only just reached the peak expert level, and Fate's decree was confident he could defeat him within 10 moves. Eternal Scholar swung his saber and charged forward. Fate's decree raised his saber to block. The moment they clashed, Eternal Scholar revealed a surprised expression. His attack, using 10/10 of his power, was blocked by Fate's decree without him even flinching. On the contrary, his wrist felt a slight tremor. Eternal Scholar used his ultimate technique, Azure Sky Saber. Tian Ruming used the butterfly dance blade technique, spinning and slashing. Chang Wenru's full-powered attack was easily blocked. Looking closely, Tian Ruming's blade was also infused with internal energy. At this moment, he realized Tian Ruming's strength was also at the peak expert level. This time, Tian Ruming gave him no chance to attack again. Butterfly dance blade technique, 6th stance. Chang Wenru's blade was broken. Just as Tian Ruming slashed towards him, he suddenly shouted, "I forfeit." At this moment, the blade was only an inch from his forehead. Chang Wenru continued, "You win. I will tell the sect master that you have passed the 4th trial." As Fate sheathed his broadsword and turned to leave, Truong Van Nu, who had been holding his hands up, suddenly lunged at him from behind. Fate, having anticipated this, spun around and punched him in the chest. It turned out his nanosystem had warned him that when Truong Van Nu raised his hands, he would gather a large amount of internal energy. Fate slowly approached Truong Van Nu and stepped on his stomach. He repeatedly begged for mercy, saying he would report to the sect master that Fate had passed the 4th stage of the examination. Fate certainly didn't believe him. He then stomped and broke all 4 of Truong Van Nu's limbs. Inside the Devil's Cave's office, Tian Ruming brought the injured Chang Wenru before Li Yinming. Li Yinming was very satisfied with Tian Ruming's handling of the situation this time. He knew when to stop, only breaking Chang Wenru's limbs. Otherwise, it would definitely have caused dissatisfaction among the other instructors. Thus, Tian Ruming successfully passed the 4th trial and was appointed as the deputy cave master. He was also rewarded with a demonic dragon pill. And he was given his own separate living quarters and could even go to the demonic sect's forge to forge a weapon for himself. Next, Li Yanming told Tian Ruming about the contents of the 5th trial. The 5th trial required passing through the Wind Demon Cave. He had to reach the peak level of a master, like Hua Chunxing, to be able to pass. Furthermore, no more than 10 people passed the 5th stage examination each time. After passing the examination, Tian Ruming went to the study. Bai Qi and the others were also in the study copying secret manuals. He went to the stone slab. The sword marks on it were even more complex than before. He had the nanosystem scan and analyze it. Then he started using the nanosystem to frantically scan the martial arts manuals. On the 3rd floor, he scanned 179 martial arts manuals. He went to the 4th floor. But when he saw the stone slab on the 4th floor, he discovered a corner was missing. Moreover, the sword marks are deeper and thicker. Tian Ruming was also very puzzled, but in the end, he still let the nanosystem scan first and analyze it again after arriving at the training room. The martial arts manuals on the 4th floor are all top-tier martial arts. Tian Ruming scanned a total of 245 manuals. On the morning of the 4th day, he went to the forge. This person is a descendant of the O family, O Shan Xiong. Tian Ruming knew both swordsmanship and saber techniques, and ultimately, he chose to have O Shan Xiong forge him a broadsword. O Shan Xiong asked him to demonstrate his swordsmanship so he could forge a broadsword suited to his style. But after watching Tian Ruming's swordsmanship, he said directly, "Seems like it can't be tempered." Speaking of Tian Ruming, he passed the examination and was rewarded with 2 demonic dragon pills. One demonic dragon pill can increase one's internal energy by 20 years. Others took them one by one, but Tian Ruming took both pills at the same time. As soon as he finished, the nanosystem alerted him to a surge of energy within his body. He hurriedly used the heavenly demonic sword technique to absorb the medicinal power, but unexpectedly, his meridians couldn't withstand the sudden burst of energy. The nanosystem immediately activated emergency repairs. Tian Ruming wondered if he should have used the Heavenless Heart technique instead of the Heavenly Demonic Sword technique to absorb the energy. But before he could use the Heartless Heaven technique, his acupoints exploded one after another. The intense pain almost made Tian Ruming faint, but fortunately, the nanosystem quickly healed and restored his ruptured acupoints. 2 hours later, Tian Ruming lay exhausted on the ground, covered in blood. This time, he knew he couldn't take 2 demonic dragon pills at the same time again. He checked his body and found that his internal energy had increased by 60 years' worth. Not only that, but the internal energy circulating in his meridians flowed more smoothly. It turned out that because his acupoints were repeatedly ruptured and healed, they had become wider and stronger. Just a moment ago, Tian Ruming had gone to the forge to find a descendant of the O family, but was told that they couldn't forge a long sword for him because his swordsmanship was too powerful. A long sword forged from ordinary materials simply couldn't withstand it. It requires Han iron to forge it, but only the quarry master has Han iron, no one else does. In the end, with no other choice, Tian Ruming could only choose to forge a long saber. Tian Ruming used the 5th move of the butterfly dance saber technique. After watching, Oshan Xiong told him to return in half a month. Afterward, Tian Ruming went to his personal training room to take the demonic dragon pill. After absorbing the demonic dragon pill, Tian Ruming smiled brightly. He tried to condense his sword chi again. This time the sword chi was stronger, and the distance it could be projected was further. With internal strength as a foundation, he had the nanosystem transmit the heavenly demon sword technique and the sword-breaking art engraved on the stone on the 3rd floor into his mind. But when he tried to transmit the 3rd move of the heavenly demon sword technique, the nanosystem alerted him that his body had reached its limit and couldn't receive anymore. But Tian Ruming still wanted to try the 3rd move of the heavenly demon sword technique. When he performed the 1st move, his muscles couldn't withstand the powerful energy. So the nanosystem quickly healed him. Looking closely, just the sword chi generated at the start of channeling his energy was enough to leave deep marks on the ground. One can imagine how powerful the 3rd move of the sword-breaking art, which he countered, was. But after his body recovered, he tried the 3rd move of the sword-breaking art again. Using it, the moves became even more varied, and the combinations were very complex. Normal sword techniques cultivated to this level have probably reached their limit. Fate continued to transmit the 4th level of the sword-breaking art into his mind. When the transmission was complete, Fate felt something was amiss. He used phantom images to have the 2 techniques clash. But in the end, the swords in both hands broke in half. Could it be that the 4th move of the sword-breaking art couldn't counter the demonic sword technique? Then he copied all the supreme martial arts manuals he had memorized. He distributed them to his subordinates, each receiving at least 1 supreme martial arts manual, with no duplicates. Due to the unique nature of inner cultivation techniques, he had the nano system analyze the heavenly demon sword technique and other inner cultivation techniques, creating a unique inner cultivation technique of his own. Tian Ruming tested it out, and its power was no less than the boundless heart technique. Just like that, everyone obtained top-tier martial arts manuals and inner cultivation techniques. Tian Ruming instructed everyone to diligently cultivate, while he planned to enter secluded cultivation. Arriving at his cultivation chamber, he found it filled with food. Thus, Tian Ruming began his secluded cultivation as planned. Mornings spent practicing forms. Afternoons sparring with phantom images. Evenings cultivating mental techniques. On the 7th day of Tian Ruming's seclusion, Tian Wuyan, the young sect leader of the Profound Devil sect, defeated his martial arts instructor, passing the 4th stage examination. On the 10th day, Wen Kuwei defeated his martial arts instructor, becoming the 3rd to pass the examination. The 4th was Tian Jingyun of the Sword Devil sect. With Tian Ruming in seclusion for 2 months, Tian Wuyan and Tian Jingyun also began their closed-door cultivation. Wen Kuwei also wished to enter seclusion. Under his martial arts guidance, everyone was training diligently. Afterward, Bai Qi also passed the 4th stage of the examination. Tian Ruming entered seclusion for 4 months. After Tian Wujing passed the 4th stage of the examination, he immediately entered secluded cultivation. Gao Wanyi and Yu Xiaozhen also passed. In the 5th month, Husong Hua and Tai Zhe Tian also passed the examination. After that, everyone passed the examination one after another. There were also some who failed the examination and were eliminated. After Tian Ruming had been in seclusion for a year, his subordinates competed again, selecting 6 new guards. Wen Kuwei became the first guard, and Bai Qi became the second. When Tian Ruming had been in seclusion for 2 years, the majority had passed the 4th stage of the examination. 19 of Tian Ruming's 34 subordinates were eliminated. 2 years and 4 months later, Tian Wuyan was the first to pass the 5th stage of the examination. Next, Tian Jingyun, Wen Kuwei, all 6 of them passed the 5th stage of the examination. But the pockmarked Tian Wujing didn't pass the 5th stage. After Tian Ruming's 4 years of closed-door cultivation, they competed again, once again selecting the 6 new guards. Gao Wanyi became the first guard, the second was Wen Kuwei, and Bai Qi was the third. 2 months later, the steward of the Devil's Cave entered closed-door cultivation. Tian Jingyun intercepted Wen Kuwei and Su Feng. He wanted to recruit Wen Kuwei as his subordinate. But Wen Kuwei had refused him many times. Tian Jingyun still wouldn't give up. He made a bet with Wen Kuwei. If Wen Kuwei won, he would let him go, but if Tian Jingyun won, Wen Kuwei would have to become his subordinate. Su Feng, standing nearby, shouted, "You're going too far." As soon as he finished speaking, 3 of Tian Jingyun's subordinates suddenly drew their swords and charged. Just as Su Feng thought he was done for, the 3 men charging towards him suddenly stopped mid-air, as if bound by some energy. At this moment, someone emerged from the cultivation chamber. 3 years later, Tian Ruming emerged from seclusion, and immediately saw his subordinates fighting. The 3 men charging towards Su Feng suddenly stopped mid-air. Then they were slammed to the ground. Seeing this, Tian Jingyun couldn't believe that Tian Ruming had actually reached the level of the vacuum palm. He ordered his remaining subordinates to attack. At this moment, Wen Kuwei and Su Feng beside him didn't just stand idly by, facing the oncoming group. Tian Ruming simply waved his hand, and they all collapsed in pain. Then he unleashed another palm strike, sending them flying 6 or 7 meters before they crashed to the ground. Tian Ruming slowly walked forward. No one dared to stand up. They were all terrified by his actions. Suddenly, a Dhamma sect disciple said, "Young Master Tian Ruming, please stop, we." Tian Ruming coldly replied, "I've said enough." The disciple continued, "If you force us into a corner, we'll all die together, even if you are young Master Tian Ruming." Before he could finish, Tian Ruming appeared before them. Hit him hard. At this moment, Van Kuyi and Tian Kanvan are evenly matched. What surprised Tian Kanvan was that Van Kuyi's frail body could use the Ma Long palm so powerfully. Fighting again. The internal energy concentrated in Van Kuyi's hands suddenly disappeared, and Tian Kanvan seized the opportunity. Just as Van Kuyi closed his eyes, waiting for death, he didn't feel any pain. He stealthily opened his eyes. The sword was only an inch away from him, but Tian Ruming caught it with one hand. Tian Ruming tilted his body. In the next second, he appeared in front of Tian Jingyun. By then, Tian Jingyun's arm had been severed. Tian Ruming stepped on him. Tian Jingyun's face was filled with fear, and he repeatedly begged for mercy. But it was too late. 1 hour later, at the Demon Cave sect office, the instructor reported to Li Yanming that Tian Ruming had left the forbidden grounds, and he personally witnessed him perform the vacuum palm. Li Yanming couldn't believe that in such a short time, he had already reached the pinnacle of martial arts mastery. But at that moment, Li Yanming sensed a powerful aura no less than the sect leaders. Then, a knock came at the door. It turned out to be Tian Ruming, there to see him about participating in the final stage of the examination. The head instructor took Tian Ruming to the examination site. The test involves navigating the demonic wind cave in darkness, bypassing its traps, As soon as Tian Ruming entered, he activated the night vision mode on his nano system. But before he could take a few steps, the plank beneath his feet suddenly collapsed. Sensing danger, Tian Ruming quickly dodged. But countless swords rained down from above. Left with no other choice, Tian Ruming was forced to use his heavily demonic swordsmanship. Those swords, following his sword energy. Just as he breathed a sigh of relief and continued forward, his foot landed on a wooden plank, triggering a large boulder to fall. Tian Ruming quickly used his Qinggong. In the nick of time, he flew up. With so many traps, he didn't dare to continue carelessly. He had his nanosystem scan the ground. After avoiding the triggered planks, he arrived at a fork in the path. He followed the direction of the wind. But after only a few steps, as if he had thought of something, Tian Ruming abruptly stopped. He had his nanosystem compare the map of the forbidden area he obtained 3 years ago with the Wind Demon Cave, concluding that the routes were identical. Tian Ruming followed the treasure map deeper into the Wind Demon Cave. The entrance was blocked by a large boulder, engraved with the large character seal. The style of writing looked like it was done by the demonic ancestor. Something must be sealed inside the sealing demon cave. Beyond the boulder, Tian Ruming heard growls coming from within, and also felt a powerful aura. Time was limited, not allowing him to think too much. Tian Ruming used the 5th move of the butterfly dance blade technique, 5 consecutive slashes, striking the boulder. With a loud crash, the boulder only received a small crack. With no other choice, Tian Ruming had to resort to his strongest move. Powerful sword energy erupted around him. The 4th move of the heavenly demon sword technique was unleashed. Sword energy converged on his broadsword, swiftly slashing down. A loud explosion echoed, and a gaping hole was cleaved into the rock. His broadsword, unable to withstand the immense force, shattered into pieces. Then, a putrid stench assaulted his senses. At that moment, the nanosystem issued a warning. Unstable energy detected ahead, moving. Then I saw a pair of bloodshot eyes in the opening. The next second, Tian Ruming's body felt like it was stabbed by something, and he was thrown against the cliff behind him. Tian Ruming was incredibly shocked. He actually couldn't withstand the stab from those eyes. Then he saw a giant monster appear in front of him. Unexpectedly, it was the scarlet dragon. Before he could think, the scarlet dragon opened its fanged maw and bit towards him. Tian Ruming hurriedly dodged. In this confined space, the scarlet dragon's massive body nearly filled the entire cave. Tian Ruming then lured it to the stone chamber to fight. When it entered the stone chamber, the ground was covered in a foul-smelling black liquid. The scarlet dragon's eyes looked inside, its mouth agape, filled with. This sticky liquid prevented it from using its lightbody technique. Left with no other choice, Tian Ruming could only use the heavenly devil sword technique to slash at the scarlet dragon. In the next second, Tian Ruming's face changed color. The heavenly devil sword technique couldn't pierce its skin. But at this moment, he noticed something unusual. The red dragon remained motionless in the water, devoid of any life. Such a massive creature entered, yet the water level didn't rise. He had his nanosystem scan and analyze the red dragon, which reported it as an illusion. But at that moment, the red dragon lunged towards him. Tian Ruming dodged, the red dragon's massive head missing him and slamming into the ground. Strangely, there wasn't a single splash, only the sound of something shattering on the ground. Analysis revealed that these illusions were formed by energy emitted from 24 iron fragments. Then, the nanosystem marked the locations of the iron fragments for Tian Ruming. Seeing this, Tian Ruming immediately understood. Because the positions of these iron pieces perfectly matched the directions of the heavenly demon sword technique's moves. Tian Ruming then used the 4th move of the heavenly demon sword technique, aiming at the position of the iron piece. The two collided, the powerful energy shaking the stone chamber. When the energy dissipated, the red dragon disappeared. Only some iron pieces remained, suspended in midair. In the next second, these iron pieces suddenly began to move. Piece by piece, the iron fragments connected with each other. Finally, it formed a long sword. The words Heavenly Demon Sword were engraved on the blade. As soon as Tian Newman picked up the long sword, he felt countless images flood into his mind. Slowly, he grew up in darkness. When Tian Newman woke up again, he was in a different space. Before him was a white dragon undergoing tribulation. But right after that, a voice rang out. A sword slashed off the white dragon's horn. The white dragon roared in pain and charged towards the person. The man also drew his sword and charged towards the white dragon. Sword chi filled the sky, enveloping the white dragon. In the next second, the white dragon's head was severed. Tian Ruming recognized the sword technique the man used as the 3rd stance of the heavenly demon sword technique. But the power he wielded was far greater than his own. The man jumped onto the white dragon's body. A massive amount of dark energy was absorbed by the long sword. The man taking the examination unexpectedly received a great reward. He used the long sword to perform the heavenly demon sword technique. Black sword energy shot out, slashing against the azure jade cliff face. But the long sword wasn't chipped at all. It could completely withstand the power of the heavenly demon sword technique. When he withdrew his demonic energy, the long sword transformed into a bracelet. The black liquid he drank earlier made his whole body feel hot. The nanosystem told him that after drinking the black liquid, his metabolism was boosted, expelling impurities from his body. Only then did Tian Ruming realize that the black liquid was the blood of the red dragon, capable of purging impurities from the body. He picked up the broadsword and took some to bring back for his subordinates. As he finished gathering it, the ground suddenly trembled. Then, the ground in front of him suddenly collapsed, forming a deep pit. The scarlet dragon's blood flowed down with the earth, and when the blood drained away, a dragon appeared on the ground. Meanwhile, Chief Instructor Hu Jinshuan was still waiting for Tian Ruming outside the Wind Demon Cave. It had been almost an hour, and if Tian Ruming didn't come out, he would go in and check. At this moment, the doors of the demonic wind cave opened. Tian Ruming, covered in blood, emerged. After wiping the blood from his body, he went to see Hu Jinxiang. Li Yanming was already waiting for him there. Seeing Tian Ruming, he felt a surge of respect. Instructor Hu Jinxiang had told him about Tian Ruming's situation inside the demonic wind cave. Tian Ruming had passed the 5th trial. He was appointed cave master and rewarded with a demonic dragon pill and a treasured sword of the heavenly demon cult. After receiving the items, Tian Ruming immediately inquired about the content of the 6th trial. Li Yanming explained that the 6th stage of the trial was to challenge one of the sect's 12 most formidable elders. Li Yanming asked him if there was any elder he wished to challenge. This time, Tian Ruming didn't choose immediately. He wanted to go back and think it over carefully before making a decision. Tian Ruming left the Devil's Cave office and went to the 5th floor of the library. He still needed to learn the final move of the Heavenly Demon Sword technique to prepare for the upcoming battle with an elder. There were very few secret manuals on the 5th floor of the library. The Heartless Heaven Scripture and the Butterfly Dance Blade technique, previously imparted by the Vice Sect leader, were also located there. He approached the rock, letting his nanosystem scan and analyze the chi flow patterns on its surface. But as he reached the rock, he froze. Tian Ruming discovered a small hole in the rock. Looking at the hole, Tian Ruming pondered, could this small hole be a technique of the Heavenly Demon Sword art? At that moment, he thought of the back of the rock. In the corresponding position on the back, there was indeed another small hole. But the sword chi generated from the technique converges at a single point, then explodes, shattering the rock. If combined with internal force or light body skill, the rock would completely crumble. At this moment, Tian Ruming became even more certain that this small hole wasn't a move of the Heavenly Demon Sword art, but something he couldn't decipher. Just then, as if realizing something, Tian Ruming had a breakthrough. He sat cross-legged in front of the rock, and the Heavenly Demon Sword art within his body circulated automatically, sword chi surrounding him. The powerful energy attracted the attention of the study's guardian. Seeing the situation, he immediately set up a protective formation around Tian Ruming. Meanwhile, Tian Ruming was completely immersed in his own world, surrounded by 5-colored energy. Ordinary people fuse 3 energies together, then break through the realm, which is also known as the trinity convergence. But Tian Ruming not only emits 5 colors, but also 5 elemental energies, which are absorbed into his body. He emits 5 colors. With a loud bang, the energy around Tian Ruming disperses. Just like that, he completed his breakthrough, reaching trinity convergence, 5 chi returning to origin. At this moment, looking at Tian Ruming, one could no longer sense the aura emanating from him. He used his internal energy to break the small hole in the rock. For the remaining time, he let the nanosystem start scanning the secret manuals on the 5th floor. He copied all the martial arts of the 6 great sects. Returning to his residence, Tian Ruming's subordinates joyfully reported to him that they had passed the examination. At this moment, Tian Ruming took out the red dragon blood he had obtained earlier. A pungent stench assaulted their noses, and everyone covered them. Tian Ruming thought for a moment. Since saying it was red dragon blood would be difficult to explain, he simply said, I found it in the demonic wind cave. Everyone drank it. Hearing this, everyone revealed looks of fear. Tian Ruming continued, I happened to drink this water before, and unexpectedly, my whole body felt refreshed. Accumulated impurities were expelled, and I felt much healthier. So, I brought some back for everyone. While everyone hesitated, Su Feng was the first to step forward. He closed his eyes and drank it all in one gulp. At first, he didn't feel anything. But a moment later, Su Feng began to sweat profusely and tremble all over. Then, he felt his whole body relax, and his chi flow much more smoothly. Seeing such a strong effect, the others endured the foul smell and drank it all. However, Hu Song Huan Wen Kuei refused. This broadsword is forged from a dragon's leg bone. Its blade is as shiny as autumn water, cold to the touch, and emits a chilling air. Tian Ruming gave the dragon's leg bone to the O family. O Tian Hung's eyes lit up when he saw the materials. I guarantee it can be completed in a month. Tian Newman left the forge and went to the Ma Quat Dong office. He told Lai Niam Min that for the 6th stage of the examination, he wanted to challenge the Grand Elder of the Amma sect. The Grand Elder is the 2nd strongest martial artist in the demonic sect. But before the 6th stage of the examination began, Lai Niam Min found Tian Newman. He used his internal energy to soundproof the area. Something important has happened within the demonic sect. The Grand Elder is away on business, leaving only the 9th Elder through the 12th Elder present. Tian Ruming is quite disappointed this time. The 6 elders of the Great Sect are all absent, so he can't spar with them. But at this moment, Li Yanming suddenly says, the sect leader of the Poison Demon sect has been demoted to 12th Elder. Hearing this, Tian Ruming smiles, then I choose the 12th Elder. 4 days later, the Poison Demon sect receives Tian Ruming's challenge letter. Everyone discusses whether to accept it or not. Everyone advises the sect leader to refuse. After careful consideration, he finally decides to decline. That night, Madame Wu suddenly visited the Poison Demon sect. At that moment, Tian Ruming was lying in bed when he saw Madame Wu. Her attire and demeanor were identical to the masked woman he had seen as a child, the one who had come to his mother to ask for the Yanlan. 4 days later, Li Yanming received a reply from the Poison Demon sect, accepting Tian Ruming's challenge. On the morning of the examination, Tian Ruming went to the forge. His saber was finished, and Shan Xion was sharpening it for him. Tian Ruming's arrival startled him. He lifted the newly forged saber. Its blade gleamed like autumn water, cold and sharp. Tian Hung took out a piece of silk and gently placed it on the blade. The moment the silk touched the saber, it was sliced in two. Engraved on the blade were the words White Dragon Saber. The Plaza of the Devil's Cave. Tian Numan stood in the center, awaiting the arrival of the demonic poison sect's leader. Li Niamen, the 9th Elder, and Sima Nia, the leader of the Yin Devil sect, served as witnesses. At this moment, the Poison Demon sect master slowly approached from afar. Enemies met, their eyes burning with hatred. As soon as Li Yanming announced the start of the examination, Poison Demon sect master Bai Wu immediately tried to ambush Tian Ruming, but he underestimated him. Unbeknownst to him, Tian Ruming had learned the movement technique personally imparted by the sect leader on the 5th floor of the library. His figure flashed, and in the next second, he appeared behind Bai Wu. Seeing his attack miss, Bai Wu immediately swung his black iron palm towards his back. Tian Ruming retreated a few steps. Seeing Tian Ruming's nimble movements, Bai Wu, intending to cripple one of his legs, aimed at Tian Ruming's leg, and channeled his internal energy into the Xian Tai palm, forming a sphere that shot towards Tian Ruming like a cannonball. With a boom, smoke and dust filled the air. By then, Tian Ruming had already leaped several meters into the air. He unleashed the White Dragon Butterfly Dance Blade Technique's second move, returning butterfly, colliding with Bai Wu's Xian Tai palm. With a boom, both were jolted backward. The spectators were so shocked by the sound of the impact that their eardrums ached, and they immediately covered their ears. At this moment, Bai Wu was even more astonished. Small cracks had appeared on his Xian Tai palm. Meanwhile, Tian Ruming's saber was completely unharmed. Not only that, but while he had assumed that Tian Ruming, having just reached the peak level, would be lacking in battle experience, he fought like a seasoned veteran. In the previous exchange, Bai Wu had used 10/10 of his power, but the internal force Tian Ruming channeled into his saber was much stronger. At this moment, he couldn't help but recall what 5th Madam had told him. 6 days ago, 5th Madam had come to him, urging him to accept Tian Ruming's challenge. Initially, he hadn't intended to fight. But Madame Wu said he knew the person the Divine Doctor was looking for, and as long as they still had a breath, they could be saved. Bai Wu's nephew, Tian Songqian, has been bedridden since his dantian was crippled. For his nephew's sake, he was moved. At first, Bai Wu didn't believe her, until Madame Wu presented the Divine Doctor's letter. Only then did Bai Wu agree to the request to kill Tian Ruming. Only now did Bai Wu understand Madame Wu's reason for seeking him out. Tian Ruming possessed such strength that, unless it was an elder of the 3rd rank or higher, probably no one could match him. Because of this, Bai Wu wanted Tian Ruming dead even more. Suddenly, a large amount of black smoke billowed out from around him. Li Yanming and Sima Yi, who were beside him, were also astonished. He was actually going to use poison. Black smoke is billowing, covering almost the entire arena. But Tian Ruming isn't afraid, he doesn't retreat, he advances. He charges towards Bai Wu, who is enveloped by the black smoke. At this moment, Bai Wu is surprised, not expecting Tian Ruming to dare charge at him. He immediately directs the poisonous gas to attack Tian Ruming, quickly surrounding him. Everyone thinks Tian Ruming is done for. Suddenly, a blade of energy slashes out from within the poisonous gas. Bai Wu, startled, quickly raises his Xian Tai palm. Next, Tian Ruming charged out of the poisonous gas, throwing a punch at him. Bai Wu blocked Tian Ruming's attack, but he couldn't dodge his fist. Just now, he saw a sight he couldn't believe. Tian Ruming's face, enveloped by the poisonous gas, was recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. At this time, those outside the arena couldn't see clearly what was happening inside due to the dense poisonous gas. At this moment, they only saw a figure fly out of the poisonous gas and crash heavily to the ground. When the poisonous smoke cleared, they saw that the person who had flown out was the sect master of the Poison Demon sect. But Tian Ruming stood there completely unharmed. At this moment, Sima Yi's jaw dropped, his face full of disbelief that Tian Ruming had actually withstood Bai Wu's attack. Previously, during the battle with the Martial Arts Alliance, he had witnessed the poison skills of the poison demon sect's leader. Back then, the mountains were piled high with those who died from his poison, and even the peerless expert, Yiming Jinrun of the Wudong sect, was no match for his poison skills. Witnessing this now, Li Yanming couldn't believe it either. At this moment, Bai Wu, who had been knocked down, got back up. He was still immersed in the scene he had just witnessed, his face etched with disbelief. Just then, Tian Ruming made his move, using the final technique of the butterfly dance blade style, butterfly dance mad demon. Bai Wu wanted to raise his black iron palm to defend, but when he lifted his hand, he discovered the black iron palm was no longer in his grasp. At the critical moment, Bai Wu let out a roar. His body crackled as countless toxins emanated from him. As the toxicity intensified, his nanosystem accelerated cell division, repairing his damaged skin. He radiated a powerful energy, pushing Tian Ruming back. Bai Wu was now completely transformed, his skin had turned black, making him a poison man. His flesh was as hard as steel, and the emanating toxins could corrode stone in an instant. This was a realm achievable only by cultivating poison techniques to the 8th level. The previous attack made Tian Ruming realize that the white dragon blade was insufficient to injure him. Therefore, Tian Ruming plunged the white dragon blade into the ground. A loud boom, dust flew everywhere. Seeing this, Bai Wu thought Tian Ruming was up to something, so he concentrated his poisonous energy in his palm. At this moment, Tian Ruming channeled demonic energy into his hand. Next, the heavenly demon sword appeared in his hand. The powerful demonic energy made Bai Wu feel a sense of danger. He felt intensely threatened. So he decided to strike first, throwing the concentrated energy in his hand towards Tian Ruming like a cannonball. Countless black sword energies instantly dispersed his energy. In the next second, Tian Ruming appeared in front of Bai Wu. He channeled his energy, preparing to attack. But he was immediately enveloped by black sword energy. Tian Ruming's iron-like body was surprisingly fragile against the black sword energy. Then came a painful cry. Finally, Tian Ruming beheaded the poison demon sect's leader with a single stroke. From drawing the heavenly demon sword to beheading Bai Wu, it took only a few seconds. At this time, those outside, due to the thick dust and smoke, didn't know what was happening inside. When the dust and smoke cleared, Tian Ruming stood there, holding something in his hand. Look closely, it's Bai Wu's head. Seeing this, everyone was immediately stunned. Even Li Yanming and Sima Yi couldn't believe that Tian Ruming had actually killed Bai Wu, the sect leader of the poison demon sect. At this moment, Tian Wuyan in the crowd clenched his fists, gnashing his teeth. He turned and left without a word. After this battle, Tian Ruming also realized that he wasn't strong enough. Just relying on the butterfly dance blade technique wasn't enough to defeat Bai Wu. Everyone has their own unique skills. He had to become stronger. The path to avenging his mother had only just begun. After passing the 6th stage of the examination, Tian Ruming went to the demonic cave office. Li Yiming used his internal energy to soundproof the area. He suddenly knelt down. This stunned Tian Ruming. Li Yiming seriously asked, "Have you obtained the heavenly demon patriarch's cultivation technique?" Tian Ruming continued to feign ignorance. Seeing his dishonesty, Li Yiming took out his left protector's token and swore to support young Master Tian Ruming in the battle for the position of young sect master. This series of actions left Tian Ruming at a loss for what to do. Tian Ruming said, "I apologize, but I don't know how I can trust the left protector, the sect leader's confidant." Li Yanming was pleased to see Tian Ruming's caution and continued. "Although I am the sect leader's left protector and cannot support anyone, setting that aside, there is something I must say." Li Yanming then told Tian Ruming a secret. The heavenly demon sword technique passed down by successive sect leaders is not the true heavenly demon sword technique. Hearing this, Tian Ruming was surprised. Li Yanming continued to explain to Tian Ruming. The heavenly demon sacred sect wasn't like it is now, with 6 major sects and so many subordinates. Every generation's cult leader marries a daughter chosen by the divine maiden cult. The divine maiden's child becomes the young cult leader. Until 500 years ago, the newly appointed cult leader went on a pilgrimage to the heavenly mountain, and all 5 people disappeared. Hearing this, Tian Ruming asked, "Who has the ability to kill 5 martial arts experts?" Li Yanming said, "That person is the extreme blade god." Hearing this, Tian Ruming also shuddered, because he had heard this name before. The extreme blade god was our cult's peerless swordsman. His swordsmanship was unrivaled, but there was one blade he couldn't defeat, the extreme blade. At that time, the cult leader and the divine maiden had a daughter. From then on, the mental cultivation, internal energy circulation methods, and techniques of the heavenly demon swordsmanship were lost. Not long after the sect leader died, the Grand Elder also passed away. To stabilize the situation, they nominated Grand Elder Sword Demon as the deputy sect leader. The demonic sect quickly stabilized. But the most important thing was to find the heavenly demon sword technique, because without knowing the inner cultivation method and chi circulation technique, there was no way to restore his martial arts. At that time, Sword Demon entered the forbidden area for the first time. Although he could discern the moves from the sword marks on the stone tablet, without the inner cultivation method and chi circulation technique, he couldn't execute those moves. Sword Demon stayed inside for 3 years before coming out. He relied on the inscriptions on the stone tablet, combined with his own comprehension, to create a new heavenly demon sword technique. After receiving everyone's approval, he passed the sword technique down to the sect leader's daughter. He also moved the stone tablet to the study in the demonic grotto cave. Tian Ruming suddenly asked, then why did he leave sword marks on the stone tablet, even going so far as to destroy the founder's cultivation method? Li Yanming explained, the sword marks on the stone tablet are traces left by their light footwork during their cultivation. It was unavoidable. Because not long after, Grandmaster Tungvan, one of the 5 great masters at the time, was also killed by the Extreme Blade God 2 years later. 2 years after that, the Extreme Blade God killed Iron Fist King Lu Fengkai, another of the 5 great masters. The Extreme Blade God successively defeated 15 top masters, including 3 of the 5 great masters, and his reputation spread far and wide. Of these 15 top masters, only Sword Immortal Changmin Jinrin and the Vice Sect leader, Sword Demon, remained. Although Sword Demon was a rare swordsman, he had seen videos of those killed by the Extreme Blade God before. The blade wounds on their bodies all carried terrifying power, and he wasn't confident that his current strength could defeat the Extreme Blade God. Left with no other choice, the elders could only have him face the stone tablet engraved with the ancestral sword techniques and begin to focus on his sword training. 4 years later, the Extreme Blade God appeared at the 10,000 Great Mountains of the demonic sect. He first defeated the Wudong sect leader. Then he fought a great battle with Sword Demon for 3 days and 3 nights, ultimately ending in a draw. However, Sword Demon paid a heavy price, losing his right arm. The most important thing for a martial artist. From then on, the Blade God never reappeared in the martial world. Some say he died of exhaustion. After that incident, the Sword Demon resigned as deputy leader, having lost his right-hand man. The leader's 16-year-old daughter succeeded him. Although she became the leader, she didn't hold the leader's authority. So she established the sect system, which has been maintained to this day. She had 5 sons. 2 of them were disciples of the Sword Demon, who are now the heads of the Sword Demon sect and the Mystic Demon sect. The other 3 were disciples of the first, second, and third elders, respectively, and are now the heads of the Blade Demon sect, Poison Demon sect, and Shadow Demon sect. She also established the demonic cave. It had 2 purposes. One was to find the true successor to the heavenly demon patriarch's legacy. She believed that one day, someone would appear within the Tian family bloodline who could decipher the secret. That's why she established the demonic cave. When the true successor of the heavenly demon patriarch appears, they will be nominated as leader. Just like that, 500 years passed, until Tian Ruming appeared. Li Yanming once fought alongside the sect leader. He recognized the heavenly devil sword technique. Before this, Tian Ruming had used the heavenly devil sword technique during the 3rd stage of the examination. At that time, he had already ascertained it. Now, Li Yanming seriously asked, have you learned the mental cultivation method of the heavenly devil ancestor? At this point, Tian Ruming had no other choice but to nod. Seeing Tian Ruming nod in confirmation, Li Yanming immediately kowtowed to him. Then Tian Ruming asked, you previously mentioned 2 purposes for establishing the Devil's Cave. What is the other purpose? Instead of answering, Li Yanming led Tian Ruming directly to the study's basement. 3 instructors guarded it day and night. They held 2 keys, and Li Yanming had one. Only when all 3 inserted their keys simultaneously, and then turned them at the same time, could it be opened. As the 3 turned their keys, the heavily guarded door slowly opened. Inside were piles of scarred flesh and a short sword. Seeing this, Tian Ruming immediately understood. This broken short sword, and that flesh, it's the remnants of the previous tomb master. These wounds were all inflicted by the Extreme Blade God. Tian Ruming carefully examined the blade marks. In his mind, he used his butterfly dance blade technique against these wounds, but his butterfly dance blade technique couldn't withstand a single blow, unless he used the sword techniques of the heavenly demon sword art. Besides these, there were also 3 secret manuals left behind by the previous Sword Demon. One of them analyzed the blade techniques of the Extreme Blade God. At this moment, Li Yanming told Tian Ruming a secret. That year, when the Sword Demon and the Ultimate Blade God fought, it wasn't a draw. The Ultimate Blade God suddenly vanished mid-battle, his whereabouts unknown. The Sword Demon waited for him for 4 days, but he never reappeared. Thus, the battle was inconclusive. Ultimately, the Ultimate Blade God never showed up again, not even until the Sword Demon's death. Having said this, Li Yanming handed the key to the treasure vault to Tian Ruming, and turned to leave. Tian Ruming picked up the 3 secret manuals and had his nanosystem scan them. When he picked up the manual of the 24 stances, Tian Ruming was stunned. This was the sword technique improved upon from the comprehension of the breaking sword style. The peerless sword technique created by the Sword Demon to counter the Ultimate Blade God. But based on Tian Ruming's deduction, the spearless sword technique was fundamentally no match for the extreme blade god's blade technique. His prior deductions led him to believe that the extreme blade god's blade technique was on par with the fourth move of the heavenly devil sword technique. After scanning the 3 secret manuals, Tian Ruming had the nano system display the blade technique on the stone tablet. Through a virtual image, he simultaneously created another virtual image using the fourth move of the heavenly devil sword technique. He had the 2 virtual images fight. In the end, although the heavenly devil sword technique temporarily gained the upper hand against the extreme blade god's blade technique, it was forced back 3 steps by the blade's energy. Technically, the heavenly devil sword technique was more refined, but in terms of power, the extreme blade god's blade technique was stronger. Li Yanming had hoped he could develop a move to counter the extreme blade god's blade technique, but he was wrong. Tian Ruming had the nano system. Thus, he obtained a blade technique equal to the heavenly devil sword technique. 7 days after Tian Ruming passed the test, everyone had been in the demonic cave for 3 years and 7 months. Currently, only 1 person had passed the 6th stage of the test, and 7 people had passed the 5th stage. And the candidate for young sect leader, Tian Luzan of the Daoma sect, the previous front-runner, has been eliminated. Tian Jingyun of the Jianhua sect had his hand severed. Of the 6, 5 couldn't persevere until the end. The remaining candidates are only Tian Ruming and Tian Wuyan. 5 months remain until the final examination to select the young sect leader. Tian Ruming successfully practiced the first move of the extreme blade divinity within the cultivation room. Although he only extracted the traces on the stone tablet, without the chi circulation method, his nanosystem, after more than 3 years, through analyzing a vast amount of martial arts, has developed a chi circulation method applicable to any martial arts technique. Having practiced all day, Tian Ruming was a little hungry. So he went to the dining hall to eat. As he was getting his food, that person was very tense, sweating profusely. And beside him, a man kept watching him. Tian Ruming got his rice and started eating, quickly finishing a bowl. Meanwhile, Tian Ruming's subordinates, on their way back, were intercepted by Tian Wuyan's subordinates. At this time, Tian Ruming, after dinner, arrived at the small forest and was also intercepted by 4 men. They were from the Sword Demon Sect, Yin Demon Sect, Blade Demon Sect, and Poison Demon Sect. The young sect master candidates of these 4 major sects had all been crippled by Tian Ruming, and they came for revenge. Earlier, when Tian Ruming went to the dining hall, Bai Zhijiu of the Poison Demon Sect secretly poisoned him. Now, he's waiting for the poison to take effect. He sneered, "You'll be able to see your subordinates at the infirmary later." Hearing this, Tian Ruming thought to himself that if Tian Wuyan attacked, his subordinates would be in danger. Tian Ruming drew his white dragon blade. He had to act quickly. Xiang Luji of the Yin Demon Sect roared and charged towards Tian Ruming, brandishing his longsword. Tian Ruming swung his white dragon blade, and Xiang Luji's longsword was cleaved in 2. In the next instant, Tian Ruming severed his right arm. At this moment, Bai Zhejiu of the Poison Demon Sect was also furious. He clearly poisoned him, so why could he still use his martial arts? Tian Ruming suddenly stretched out his hand. Drops of black liquid dripped from his hand, landing on Xiang Liuji's wounds with a sizzling sound. Actually, when he ate, he had already discovered it. So he had his nanosystem analyze the food and collect the poison. At this moment, Tian Ruming didn't waste any words with them. He flashed, appearing before them. A palm strike hits Pu Yongkong of the Blade Demon Sect in the chest. Seeing this, Jing Jiu of the Sword Demon Sect begins to feel some regret. The wound Tian Ruming inflicted earlier hasn't healed yet. Tian Ruming slowly walks toward Pu Yongkong. He steps on him. Tian Ruming's action frightens the other 2, their faces turning pale. At this moment, Tian Ruming is looking at them, filled with killing intent. Bai Zhijiu still wants to use the 6 great sects to threaten him. But Tian Ruming doesn't care at all. He casually picked up Xiang Liuji's fallen shortsword and stabbed it into the chest of Jing Jiu of the Sword Demon Sect. Then, filled with murderous intent, he walked towards Bai Zhijiu. Later, Tian Ruming ran into Bai Qi, who was looking for him. Seeing that Tian Ruming was alright, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Then, Tian Ruming asked, "Weren't you attacked by Tian Wuyan's subordinates?" Gao Wanyi was surprised. "How did you know, sect leader?" "They stopped us. Just said a few words trying to recruit us, didn't make a move. Then they left." Hearing this, Tian Ruming thought the 4 from the 4 great sects wanted to kill him, and even prepared a trap to ambush him. But the one from the demonic sect just said a few words and left. Could it be they didn't actually want to recruit Gao Wanyi and the others, but were just stalling for time? Meanwhile, in the training room, Tian Wuyan's subordinates were reporting what happened tonight to him. It turns out they wanted to use the 4 great sects to eliminate Tian Ruming, letting both sides fight, and ultimately benefiting themselves. Just then, someone knocked on the training room door. Chief Instructor Hu Jinshuang, along with other instructors, stood menacingly at the door. Hu Jinshuang pointed at Tian Wuyan and said, "I've received orders to bring you 2 to see the sect master." Tian Luzan and the other person were escorted to the reception hall. The place was a mess. Li Yanming asked directly, "Did you two do this?" Hearing this, Tian Luzan quickly explained, "Chen Yun and I were in the training room the whole time. We have no idea what happened here." Li Yanming then pointed at Xiang Luji, who was lying on the ground. At this moment, his entire body was purple, as if he had died from poisoning. Seeing that the dead person wasn't Tian Ruming, Tian Wuyan breathed a sigh of relief. Then, Li Yanming led them to another location. Jing Diao had been stabbed through the heart by a long sword, and that sword belonged to Xiang Luji. At this moment, Tian Wuyan felt something was wrong. This was a setup. Jing Diao and Xiang Luji had seemingly killed each other. Not far away was another corpse. This person had been severely injured and then had their head smashed in. Tian Wuyan immediately understood the trap. Because the secrets of the flowing cloud palm were on the 5th floor of the study, he wasn't too worried. But when he saw Bai Zhezhou's body, of the poison demon sect, his expression immediately changed. He didn't dare to look directly. Because Bai Zhezhou was killed by a sword and a palm strike simultaneously. And on the left side of his right shoulder was the unique martial art of the mysterious demon sect. Tian Wuyan used it during the 3rd stage of the examination. Tian Wuyan knew that Tian Ruming was framing him. He didn't believe that someone could learn his unique martial art just by watching it once. With this evidence, further explanation was useless. And Chen Yun, beside him, knew that if Tian Wuyan was eliminated, his own fate would be miserable. He shifted all the blame onto Bai Zhezhou of the poison demon sect. They said Bai Zhezhou suggested killing Tian Ruming, but they found the method too cruel and didn't participate. They knew nothing about what happened here, and furthermore, Tian Ruming was the one with the motive to kill. Faced with this evidence, Li Yanming didn't believe him. Moreover, this place was discovered by Tian Ruming and his subordinates, who then reported it to Li Yanming. At this moment, Tian Ruming approached from afar. Everyone knelt down in unison and shouted, "We pay our respects to Elder Tian Ruming." Tian Wuyan didn't move, so Li Yanming shouted, "Hurry up and pay your respects to Elder Tian Ruming." Under Li Yanming's coercion, the two reluctantly bowed to Tian Ruming. Tian Ruming requested to examine the bodies. Xiang Liuji was killed by a saber, Pu Yankon's leg was severed by a saber, then he was poisoned by the poison demon sects by Zhezhou. And finally stabbed through the heart by the Yin demon sect Xiang Liuji with a Yin demon sect sword. Hu Xinchang next to him continued, Pu Yankon was beaten, then his head was crushed to death. At this moment, Li Yanming looked at Bai Zhezhou's body and said, Bai Zhezhou was struck by a palm from the Xian demon sect, and died from internal injuries and excessive blood loss. Tian Ruming looked at Tian Wuyan and the other, then said, "If, as you say, I killed them, wouldn't that mean I also know how to detoxify and use this series of poisons? It looks more like the 5 of them fought and then killed each other." At this time, Tian Wuyan finally understood Tian Ruming's intention. He not only wanted to eliminate Tian Wuyan, but when these bodies were returned to their respective sects, they would judge the murderer based on the wounds. Tian Ruming's true purpose was to make the 5 great sects fight amongst themselves. Tian Wuyan knew he had fallen into a trap, but it was too late. Li Yanming imprisoned them in the Forbidden Zone. When the Poison Demon sect received news of Bai Zhezhou's death, they were still holding Bai Wu's funeral. Judging by the wounds on his body, it was assumed to be the work of the Mystic Demon sect. Everyone in the Poison Demon sect hated the Mystic Demon sect. Previously, Bai Wu had refused Tian Ruming's challenge. After the 5th madam arrived, Bai Wu changed his mind. Moreover, her poison was also found on Bai Wu's body. Someone suggested that with the Mystic Demon sect's leader absent, it was the perfect opportunity for a sneak attack. After careful consideration, young sect master Sima Lu decided to hold Bai Zhezhou's funeral 3 days later and ordered all scattered members of the Poison Demon sect to gather before dawn tomorrow. All the members of the Poison Demon sect, dressed in white, launched a night raid on the Mystic Demon sect. But when they arrived at the Mystic Demon sect's estate, there wasn't a soul in sight. At this moment, the young sect leader of the Poison Demon sect sensed something was amiss. It seemed they had fallen into a trap. A barrage of arrows rained down upon them. Caught off guard, they suffered heavy losses. Next, countless weapons appeared all around. The Poison Demon sect was surrounded on all sides. "I can only fight to the death." At this moment, a white-haired old man appeared, a 5th-rate master. No one from the Poison Devil sect was his match. Wherever he went, people fell. He quickly discovered the Poison Devil sect's young sect master, but he was no match for the old man. After a few moves, he was severely injured. At this time, 5th madam slowly stepped out. The 2 Poison Devil sect members, seeing 5th madam appear, immediately charged to attack her. A flash of sword light, and their heads flew from their bodies. He was pinned to the ground by the old man. 5th madam slowly approached. He opened his mouth to beg for mercy, but 5th madam decapitated him. Now, all of the Poison Demon sect's ambushers were dead. 3 days after Tian Wuyan's imprisonment, his subordinates fell into chaos. The Devil's Cave now belonged to Tian Ruming, and Tian Wuyan's former subordinates retreated one after another. Some who had previously remained neutral chose to join Tian Ruming. But Tian Ruming, always valuing loyalty, refused them all. Fortunately, after Tian Ruming defeated by Wu, Sima Joy of the Yin Demon Sect and Li Yanqing of the Blade Demon Sect chose to become his subordinates. And now, Tian Ruming decided to leave the Devil's Cave ahead of schedule. He had two goals this time: 1, to find another way to the entrance, and 2, the sect leader and the Great Elder had both left the demonic sect. Tian Ruming took 5 subordinates with him and arrived at the Flying Ring Ghost Sect's manor that very night. The 2 guards at the gate both wore masks. After he revealed his identity, a gaudily dressed woman poked her head out from the doorway. This is the most mysterious sect, the Heavenly Devil Divine Cult. Everyone inside wears a mask, no one has ever seen their true faces. These 7 people look exactly alike. Tian Ruming left the Devil's Cave and went to the Flying Ring Ghost Sect first. Head steward Lu received them. But he only allowed Tian Ruming to enter. In the end, when Kuei and Tian Ruming entered the Flying Ring Ghost Sect together, they arrived at the main hall, where there were 7 identical people inside. Someone is sitting. Lu Ruoyan walks up to the person sitting in the middle. Sect Master, I've brought the guests. Tian Ruming looks at the 7 people in front of him. Not only do they look identical, but even their auras are the same. At this moment, when Kuei suddenly transmits his voice, this person looks exactly like Elder Huani. Tian Ruming bows slightly. I am Tian Ruming, the newly appointed 12th Elder. When Kuei beside him also says, I am Wen Kuei of the Demon Dragon Palm Sect. Greetings, Sect Master. Hearing this, Huan Yi's expression changes slightly. Then he smiles and says, it's been a while. Before entering the demonic cave, Wen Yang and I met. You've managed the Demon Dragon Palm Sect very well. But at this time, when Kuei transmits his voice to Tian Ruming, are you sure that person is Elder Huani? Because only he would know that I once brought someone to the Demon Dragon Palm Sect. Tian Ruming's purpose here this time is to obtain Elder Huan Yi's identity token. There are only 2 ways to become the young sect master. One is to gain the support of the 12 high-ranking sect leaders, and the other is to gain the support of 3 of the 12 elders. The jade pendant is a symbol of the sect leader's identity. Handing over the jade pendant signifies acknowledging someone as the young sect master and also means swearing allegiance to him. Huani hopes Tian Ruming can fulfill his wish. The first test is observation. He has Tian Ruming find the real sect leader. These people are wearing masks, even their hair is the same, making it very difficult to distinguish them. Huani said with a smile, come, let's eat some snacks and chat. Just then, Tian Ruming suddenly said, I found him. Then he turned to look at Steward Lu. Lu Ruoyan chuckled awkwardly, it's not me, is it? Tian Ruming explained, you told me to find the sect leader, you didn't say it had to be one of the 7. Lu Ruoyan added, just based on one sentence, you've declared me the sect leader. This selection process is too careless. But before he could finish, Tian Ruming suddenly struck his neck with a palm. Lu Ruoyan raised his hand to block the blow. I can't keep up the pretense. How did you know? Earlier, when Wen Kuei greeted you, that person spoke with a distinct intonation. At that moment, Tian Ruming became more alert. Someone using voice transmission would have a slightly different tone. But that person's lips weren't moving, they weren't using voice transmission. He had his nanosystem analyze that person's voice. The nanosystem could capture sound at different frequencies. Then, he heard the voice transmission. But Tian Ruming couldn't reveal this. He explained. After Wen Kuei greeted them, the person who responded hesitated slightly. Then I knew someone was using voice transmission. But among the 7 people, no one's tone changed. They weren't using voice transmission. So, of everyone here, the only person who could have used voice transmission is you. Lu Ruoyan smiled, introducing herself again, I am Lu Ruoyan, sect master of the Flying Ring Ghost Sect. You have passed the first test, so let's begin the second. Saying this, she struck a palm towards Tian Ruming. Following that, she attacked with a ghost shadow palm. Tian Ruming used his swordsmanship to defend. But she still grabbed him by the collar. And kicked him. Tian Ruming had previously seen the ghost shadow palm technique on the 5th floor of the library, but this person's use of it was more refined, without any flaws. Huani slowly walked forward, you win. Although the poison demon sect master looks like a man, she's actually. I've always wanted to fight her, but I haven't found a suitable reason. But since you defeated her, it's fine to spar with you. At this moment, the maid beside her brought her weapon. She stepped into the arena. Her unique martial art is the Flying Ring Ghost Blade. Seeing her opponent use a saber, Tian Ruming also drew his white dragon saber. The most beautiful woman of the heavenly demon sacred religion is actually a man. He is the sect master of the Flying Ring Ghost Sect, and because he cultivates the ghosting technique, since childhood he has had to. Just now, after leaving the Devil's Cave, Tian Ruming went straight to the Flying Will Devil Sect. To become the young sect leader, he needs the support of the 3 elders. To gain the support of the Flying Will Devil Sect, he must first defeat the sect leader. Both being masters of the blade, Huani uses his signature martial art, the Flying Will Devil Blade. Tian Ruming draws his white dragon blade. The 2 blades clash, emitting a clang. Hearing the sounds of fighting from inside, Gao Wangyi and over 100 subordinates outside assume Tian Ruming is in danger. Bai Qi kicks the door open. Everyone rushed in. At this moment, Tian Numen and Hon Not were fighting fiercely. Hon Not struck with a poem. With only this level of strength, you wish to gain my support? Tian Numen's butterfly dance blade technique couldn't suppress her blade skills. He decided to use a different technique. Hon Not found Tian Numen's sudden change of technique very strange. She had never seen such a peculiar technique before. Tian Numen said calmly, I may not be able to control the force of this, please be careful. Hearing this, Hon Not decided to get serious. The ultimate technique of the Phantom Will Ghost Blade, Phantom Will Ghost Blade Sky Shadow. Countless blade shadows clashed in mid-air, emitting booming sounds. In the end, Huani lost, the broadsword in her hand broken by Tian Ruming. Seeing Tian Ruming slash a blade towards her, facing the powerful blade aura, she closed her eyes. Only a loud explosion was heard. And Gao Wangyi, who had just rushed in, was blocked by Wu Gong, the outer hall master of the Phantom Will Ghost sect. At that moment, they felt a powerful surge of energy. Then, a hole was slashed into the cliff face in front of them. Tian Ruming's attack shook the ground, his powerful blade carving a deep groove into the earth. Everyone was stunned by the scene before them and hurriedly looked inside. Tian Ruming's attack stopped just in front of Huan Yi. Huan Yi was also shaken by the force of the attack, and fell to his knees. He hastily offered the jade pendant. Xiaobong Not and the others flew to the main hall. Tian Ruming wanted to see Huan Yi's true face under the mask, but was refused. The Fei Huan Ghost Sect is actually under Duo Li's control, responsible for assassinations and intelligence gathering. Except for the sect leader, no one has ever seen his true face. At this moment, Tian Ruming thought of Huan Yi in the Devil's Cave. Back in the Devil's Cave, he tried to recruit her, but she refused, saying that without the sect leader's permission, she wouldn't join any organization. But he has a nano system, so he knew at that time that Huan Yi is a woman. At this moment, Huan Yi suddenly said, I am a man. Hearing this, everyone was surprised. She continued to explain, our Flying Will Ghost Sect's cultivation technique, the ghosting art, thrives on yin and weakens yang. Therefore, to cultivate the ghosting art, one must be castrated from a young age. Huan Yi was adopted by the Grand Preceptor. Hearing this, Chao Wangyi and Su Feng were stunned. After leaving the Flying Will Ghost sect, Tian Ruming returned to the place where he grew up. After he entered the Devil's Cave, Guard Zhang continued to live here. Entering the courtyard, the inside was neatly cleaned. But as Tian Ruming reached the door, he suddenly stopped. Because he couldn't sense Guard Zhang's presence. Tian Ruming returned to the place where he grew up, but couldn't find Guard Zhang. He had his subordinates search the entire courtyard. The courtyard was clean, but they found no trace of Guard Zhang. He stood from a high vantage point and initiated a nanosystem scan of the entire courtyard. He discovered a small sword mark on the wall. At this moment, Gao Wangyi also arrived. Seeing the sword wound, he said, Guard Zhang has been ambushed. Tian Ruming was filled with murderous intent. Only the Sword Demon Sect, the Profound Demon Sect, and the Yin Demon Sect use swords. It's highly likely it was one of those three. Gao Wangyi said, their target wasn't Guard Zhang, but the sect leader. If they know he's left the Devil's Cave, they'll definitely try to approach him. So, Gao Wangyi devised a plan. Meanwhile, in the Profound Demon Sect's guest room, Guard Zhang, covered in blood, lay unconscious. The fifth madam was torturing him, fiercely demanding. Did the sect leader teach him that cultivation technique? Guard Zhang, beaten to the point of being unable to speak, could only mutter, no. But Madame Wu didn't believe him and ordered her subordinates to continue the torture. Just then, a subordinate suddenly ran in and said, Tian Ruming has left the Devil's Cave. Hearing this, Madame Wu smiled, coming out now, isn't he just looking for death? Inside an inn, Tian Ruming and his two companions were quietly eating, while several people stared at them. They were waiting for those people to approach them. Gao Wangyi's plan was to use Tian Ruming as bait, while the other three would separately monitor the three sects. At that moment, a voice transmitted into Tian Ruming's mind, ordering him to go to the Poison Demon sect alone, and threatened him, saying if he dared to bring anyone, they would cut off Guard Zhang's hand. Using my nanosystem, I, Tian Ruming, discovered the voice transmission came from the waiter at the door. But I couldn't see his face clearly. I slammed my palm on the table and abruptly stood up. The noise in the hall fell silent. I walked towards the door, but he had vanished. In the next second, I made my move. Several people standing at the door were knocked down. I grabbed one man by the throat and asked, what sect are you from? He stammered, I'm not from any sect. Tian Ruming's face darkened, I advise you to confess. I don't know what I might do. His powerful aura made the man tremble. Under the immense pressure, the man fainted. Tian Ruming had his subordinates carry them back. Back at his residence, they confessed to being hired to follow Tian Ruming. After checking their identity tokens, he confirmed they were ordinary people. Having obtained the answers he sought, Tian Ruming knocked them unconscious and locked them up. A moment later, Gao Wangyi returned. He was in charge of monitoring the Nmo sect. Nothing out of the ordinary. Some time has passed, it's now past the appointed time, but Bai Qi and Sima Jua still haven't returned. Tian Ruming has a bad feeling. Meanwhile, at 5th Madam's manor, subordinates carry the two of them in. After throwing them to the ground, a closer look reveals they are Bai Qi and Sima Jua, who had been following the Xian Mo sect and Jian Mo sect. Both of them have been captured by 5th Madam of the Xian Mo sect. Late at night, Tian Ruming arrives alone at the Du Mo sect manor. 5th Madam has already been waiting for him. I'm surrounded by masked experts. Seeing Tian Ruming, I remember my childhood. When the wives came to harass my mother, forcing her to drink medicine that crippled her internal energy. Tian Ruming asked directly, where are Steward Zhang and my men? The 5th wife said coldly, now that I have hostages, do you think I'll hand them over so easily? Tian Ruming's eyes were filled with killing intent. Seeing his gaze, the 5th wife sneered and ordered her subordinates to cripple his internal energy first. An old man beside her extended his hand, slowly approaching Tian Ruming. If you want to save your steward and your men, don't resist. But Tian Ruming directly said, it was you who used voice transmission to threaten me at the inn before? Hearing this, the old man froze. Next, he channeled his energy and struck Tian Ruming's dantian with his palm. Tian Ruming reached out and grabbed the old man's hand. Then, with a forceful twist, he easily broke the old man's wrist. Seeing this, Madame Wu suddenly stood up. Tian Ruming then handed her a small box. When Madame Wu opened the box and saw what was inside, her eyes went wide. Madame Wu opened the box. Inside was an eyeball. She immediately asked, what are you doing? But Tian Ruming calmly said, shouldn't you ask me whose eyeball this is? At this moment, 5th Madam immediately thought of her son, Tian Wuyan, but she still didn't believe it, because Tian Wuyan was in the Devil's Cave, and the left protector wouldn't possibly neglect him. But she didn't know that 2 hours earlier, Tian Ruming had gone to the Forbidden Grounds to find Tian Wuyan. By this time, Tian Wuyan's internal energy had already been abolished. Tian Ruming used his internal energy to restrain him. Initially, he had planned to rescue Guard Zhang and consider the matter settled. But Tian Ruming suddenly learned the truth about his mother's death, so he sought out Tian Wuyan, who was very important to 5th Madam. At this moment, Tian Wuyan was still sneering, saying, if you dare touch me, that guard named Zhang will die an even more miserable death. But before he could finish, Tian Ruming chopped off both his hands. However, he felt that just severing his hands wasn't enough to frighten Madame Wu. So, he decided to gouge out Tian Wuyan's eyes. Seeing that Madame Wu still refused to yield, Tian Ruming tossed her an identification token. Upon seeing the token, Madame Wu was completely convinced that the man who had his eyes gouged out was Tian Wuyan. She gritted her teeth and asked, what do you want? Tian Ruming calmly said, release my subordinate and guard Zhang. Therefore, the 5th Madam pretended to exchange hostages, intending to rescue Tian Wuyan first. She ordered her subordinates to take guard Zhang and the others away. Then she asked, now can you tell me where my son is? Tian Ruming replied, my subordinate is guarding Tian Wuyan in the forbidden area. Seeing how easily she could obtain Tian Wuyan's eyeballs, she was secretly delighted, planning to kill Tian Ruming's subordinate after rescuing her son. Tian Ruming gave his identification token to the 5th Madam to use for the exchange. The 5th Madam immediately ordered the old man beside her to go to the Devil's Cave, and secretly transmitted a message to him, ordering him to kill everyone, leaving only Tian Wuyan alive. The silver-haired old man led his men to the Devil's Cave. I noticed the security is lax again today. But I didn't think much of it and charged straight up the Forbidden Mountain. Nearing the summit, I arranged for my subordinates to ambush on the mountainside, waiting for me to rescue Tian Wuyan before ambushing Tian Ruming's men. The moment I stepped into the forbidden area, my expression froze. Tian Wuyan wasn't there. Instead, it was Chief Instructor Hu Jinxiang. I immediately realized I'd been tricked. I hurried to escape the forbidden area. But when he went outside, he froze at the sight before him. Corpses lay everywhere, the ambushers he'd sent were all dead. In the distance, someone slowly approached. Before he could get a clear look at the newcomer, he was cut down by a sword. Meanwhile, 5th Madam was anxiously waiting. Tian Ruming, seeing her anxiety, voiced her thoughts. You wanted to kill my subordinates and then rescue your son? Hearing this, 5th Madam realized she had been tricked. The profound ghost sect is definitely in danger, so I must hurry back. But at this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in the courtyard. Looking closely, he was holding the old man's head in his hand. Tian Ruming said, you've worked hard, left protector. 5th Madam then realized that Li Yanming had pledged his allegiance to Tian Ruming. She angrily questioned, left protector, since when have you supported an unconfirmed candidate for young sect master? This is a violation of the sect's rules. Li Yanming calmly replied, the battle for young sect master is now over. 5th Madam immediately fell silent. Tian Ruming continued, it seems you still have hope. Do you think that if you kill me here, the others will have a chance to fight amongst themselves? At this moment, 5th Madam still talked tough, I advise you to stop playing tricks. If I'm not happy, that guard. Before she could finish, a panicked subordinate ran in, shouting, help! The manor is surrounded by hundreds of men. At this time, Huani also rushed over. Sect leader Huani of the Flying Will Ghost sect, following the orders of the cult leader. Young Master's subordinates are all injured, but Young Master's guard is critical. I've brought a doctor. Hearing that guard Zhang was critical, Tian Ruming was filled with murderous intent. A powerful aura made everyone tremble. At this moment, Madame Wu still refused to admit she was wrong. Just then, Zhao Wanyi and Su Feng brought Tian Wuyan and Shen Yun in. Madame Wu had originally intended to harm Tian Ruming, but unexpectedly, she fell into Tian Ruming's trap step by step. Seeing her son in their hands, Madame Wu dropped to her knees with a thud in front of Tian Ruming. Weeping and pleading, she begged Tian Ruming to spare her son. But at this moment, she secretly transmitted a message to Tian Wuyan, remember this grudge. After you get out, you can always take revenge. Moreover, as long as I can save you, I can do anything. At this moment, Tian Wuyan gnashed his teeth, his whole body trembling. Fifth Madam then said to Tian Ruming, we choose to surrender. We absolutely won't harm young Master Tian Ruming. Please have mercy. But Tian Ruming didn't say anything, only stared at Tian Wuyan. Tian Ruming walked in front of Tian Wuyan, and suddenly said, release him. Gao Wanyi was stunned upon hearing this. Li Yanming, standing beside him, also thought the matter would end there. But Tian Ruming said, release him. Step aside. Fifth Madam secretly rejoiced, her plan had succeeded. But in the next moment, Tian Ruming enveloped Tian Wuyan and Shen Yun with sword qi. Then, only screams of agony were heard as the limbs of both Tian Wuyan and Shen Yun were severed by the sword qi. Finally, Tian Ruming struck Tian Wuyan's head with his sword. Seeing this, Fifth Madam went mad and rushed forward to stop him, but it was too late. Tian Wuyan's head flew off his body. Everyone around was stunned in disbelief. At this moment, Madame Wu cradled Tian Wuyan's head, weeping inconsolably. Tian Ruming slowly walked up to her. Are you suffering now? This is the pain I once endured, now it's your turn. The surrounding Xian Ma sect members wanted to charge forward, but were stopped by a wave of sword energy. Li Yanming said calmly, if anyone dares to take another step forward, I can't guarantee I'll spare you. But the white-haired old man still charged towards Tian Ruming. In the next second, a figure appeared, and the old man was killed. At this moment, Madame Wu gnashed her teeth and said, why did you do this? Tian Ruming, why did you kill my son? Tian Ruming calmly replied, because you killed my mother. Madame Wu wanted to argue, but Tian Ruming reached into his chest and took out a letter, throwing it to the ground. When she saw the contents of the letter, her eyes immediately went blank. This is the letter Tian Songqian sent to Tian Ruming. When the Poison Demon sect ambushed the Mystic Demon sect before, they lost 80% of their fighting force. This time, I hear Tian Ruming's subordinates were captured by the Mystic Demon sect, and Tian Songqian is seizing this opportunity. He wants the Mystic Demon sect and Tian Ruming to fight each other, so he's telling Tian Ruming what he witnessed that year. Fifth Madam is now completely in despair. She's not resigned to being framed by that good-for-nothing Tian Songqian. She suddenly shouts, yes, I killed your mother, so what? You want to kill a disciple of this sect? Kill me? Just you? How dare you touch me? My older brother is the Grand Elder, he won't let you get away with this. If you dare lay a finger on me, you and your subordinates will die without a burial place. Before she could finish, Tian Ruming blinded her. Screams of pain echoed throughout the manor. The Fifth Madam shrieked, my eyes, my eyes. Tian Ruming said coldly, you are not worthy of looking at me. The Fifth Madam continued to curse Tian Ruming. In the next second, Tian Ruming cut off her tongue and said indifferently, you are not worthy of speaking either. The surrounding Xian Ma sect members shouted, aren't you afraid of the Grand Elder's revenge? This isn't our sect's entire force. If the Great Elder finds out about this, he won't spare you. Tian Ruming calmly replied, the prerequisite is that he finds out. With a casual wave of his hand, the door beside them was kicked open. Looking closely, the room was filled with the corpses of Poison Demon sect members. Tian Songqian was among them. Tian Ruming continued, you'll fight with the Poison Demon sect, then die together. No one will know. Hearing this, the Profound Demon sect members were instantly stunned. Tian Ruming said, obey my command. Kill them. Tian Ruming decided to kill everyone from the Xian Mo sect. The Xian Missouri sect estate was awash in a sea of blood, filled with screams of agony. Some desperately tried to escape, but ultimately couldn't avoid their fate. Fifth Madam, blind, could only hear the cries of the Xian Mo sect members. Tian Ruming stepped on Fifth Madam's head. When the screams stop, it'll be your turn, you vicious woman. At this moment, Madame Wu still couldn't believe she was about to die. She didn't want to die, she wanted to live. With the last person falling beneath Li Yanming's sword, the entire Xuanma sect was annihilated. He had his nanosystem copy all of the venomous demon sect's poisons, then used them on the corpses of the Xuanma sect. Finally, Tian Ruming slowly walked up to Madame Wu. A sword pierced through her. The venomous demon sect and the Xuanma sect were completely destroyed, and all those who caused the calamity were killed. This news quickly spread throughout the demonic sect. The streets were filled with people discussing the matter, but they all condemned the Manhwa sect, because the venomous demon sect had been exterminated. This was all due to Huani of the Flying Ring Ghost sect sending his subordinates to spread the news. At the Faihon Ghost sect's villa, Tian Ruming anxiously waited at the door. At that moment, the door opened. Bai Defu hurried out. Tian Ruming anxiously asked, "How is Guard Zhang?" Bai Defu replied, "You don't need to worry, his life is no longer in danger, but all his teeth were knocked out. It seems he'll have to take medicine for the rest of his life." Hearing this, Tian Ruming's expression. Gao Wangi and the others returned. After learning that Guard Zhang's life was no longer in danger, Tian Ruming didn't rest at all. Currently, both the cult leader and the sect leader are away from the demonic cult. Once they return, they will definitely stop at nothing to take revenge. So, Fate's decree needs to be fully prepared before they return. We still need the support of 2 more elders. Once Sima Jua fully recovers, going together with the 9th elder will likely make persuasion easier. For the other one, we can only go to the Evil Eye Sword sect. But the sect master of the Evil Eye Sword sect is the junior sister of Elder Lian Manhwa. This female elder has a peculiar personality. None of the 5 from the manor are there, only a few servants. But I hear they gather with the Sword Demon sect and the Profound Demon sect every few years. Li Yanming said before that although she's the 10th elder, her authority is actually in his hands. Fate's decree and the others arrived at the Evil Eye Sword sect. Su Feng knocked on the manor's main gate. Soon, a servant came out. Tian Ruming stated his identity. The servant went back in to report. A moment later, the servant reappeared and said, "I apologize, but my mistress says she won't meet anyone unless the sect leader comes personally." Tian Ruming thought for a moment and decided to use his power to pressure her. A powerful energy emanated from Tian Ruming. It immediately frightened the servant, causing them to tremble. He maintained this for a while, but there was still no reaction from inside. Reluctantly, Tian Newman had to abandon this method. At this time, Tian Newman said, "Please convey this message to Lin Maohua. You and Huanma sect, Qinma sect are of the same ilk." The servant went back inside. Chao Vong not beside him said, "Didn't you want to obtain the jade pendant from the 10th elder?" "Why say that?" Tian Newman replied, "I want to see if she wants to be an outsider or become my enemy." At this moment, a strong aura suddenly emanated in the yard. Intentionally, the servant went out to invite Tian Newman inside. Inside, they saw a woman with an imposing presence looking at them. As soon as Tian Ruming finished bowing, Elder Lian exclaimed excitedly, I don't care if you're a member of the Tian family or an elder, don't expect any courtesy from me." This stunned Tian Ruming, but before she could speak, Elder Lian drew her sword and pointed it at Tian Ruming. "The same kind? You dare compare me to those traitors from the Sword Demon sect and the Profound Demon sect? Today I'll teach you a lesson." Without finishing her sentence, Elder Lian lunged at Tian Ruming. But when Tian Ruming saw the sword technique she used, his expression immediately froze. Before he could say anything, the long sword arrived before him. Tian Ruming hurriedly raised his sword to block, the 2 swords clashing with a clang. Elder Lian also revealed a puzzled expression. Elder Lian retreated a few steps and asked, "How were you able to counter my sword technique?" But Tian Ruming didn't answer, instead asking, "How did you learn this sword technique?" Hearing this, Elder Lian was secretly surprised. Could he know this sword technique? Lian retorted loudly, "This is my sect's sword technique." "I don't know what you're talking about." Tian Ruming calmly replied, "This is the first time I've heard of the sword demon having a disciple." At this, Gao Wangi and the others beside him, hearing sword demon, revealed astonished expressions. "Sect leader, what sword technique is that?" Tian Ruming said indifferently, "The calm heart demonic sword, derived from the heavenly demonic sword technique." Hearing this, Gao Wangi was even more astonished. The sword technique lost 500 years ago? How did sect leader decipher that sword technique? At this moment, Elder Lian was also extremely shocked inwardly. Could he be a descendant of Wu Ming? Elder Lian Maohua had originally intended to use the calm heart demonic sword to teach Tian Ruming a lesson. I can't believe he broke it with one move. At this moment, Lian Maohua was also very upset. She didn't believe Tian Ruming knew the calm heart demonic sword. Could it be that Wu Ming taught him? But in the end, she dismissed the idea, because Wu Ming wouldn't teach it to someone unrelated to the sword sect. Seeing Elder Lian's bewildered expression, Tian Ruming knew that she didn't know about the true inheritance of the sword demon hidden within the demonic cave. He then asked, "How did you learn this sword technique?" Lian Maohua suddenly raised her voice, "The calm heart demonic sword is a sword sect technique, how do you know it?" Tian Ruming said coldly, "Indeed, the calm heart demonic sword is a sword sect technique. But you're certainly not from the sword sect either." Hearing this, Lian Maohua gnashed her teeth. She flew into a rage and charged towards Tian Ruming. The two immediately clashed, powerful sword energy filling the air. But at this moment, Tian Ruming suddenly noticed that the tranquil heart demonic sword Lian Maohua was using was different from what he knew. as if some missing parts had been added. And Lian Maohua was even more surprised. The swordsmanship Tian Ruming was using was similar to hers, only the order of the moves and the way they were executed were different. At this moment, she suddenly felt a strong pulling force. The next second, her sword flew from her hand. Seeing that she was about to collide with Tian Ruming's sword. But right after that, the strong pulling force suddenly disappeared. Lian Maohua crashed heavily to the ground. Next, a long sword was held to her neck. At this moment, Lian Maohua was even more certain that the swordsmanship Tian Ruming just used was the same one she saw at Wu Ming's place. Tian Ruming asked, "Can you tell me how you practiced this swordsmanship?" Lian Maohua turned her head away. "I can't tell you. To compensate for losing to you, I'm willing to pay the price of an arm." Seeing her resolve, Tian Ruming didn't know what to do, but he could be sure it was related to the Wu Ming she mentioned. Then, Tian Ruming asked, "What is your relationship with the Sword Demon Sect and the mysterious Demon Sect?" Hearing this, Lian Maohua hesitated. Fate continued, "Because I and they are enemies." Hearing Fate's next words, Lian Maohua finally realized he was the one who had acted in the previous incident. Previously, during the elders' meeting, someone had discussed Fate, so she knew some things about him. Lian Maohua explained to Fate. 500 years ago, the Sword Demon had 3 disciples. The Sword Demon wanted to take the most outstanding one, the Sword God, as his personal disciple, while the other 2 were to be groomed into sect leader and branch leader. But Jing Chuan and Wu Doulang had ambitions. They relied on the smaller sects that supported them and rebelled against the sect leader. The Sword Demon was extremely disappointed and angry. He felt that his disciple, Wu Ming, had been influenced, so he expelled all 3 from his sect. Because those 2 only wanted to inherit the Sword Sect, even Lian Hongtu was implicated. After the Sword Demon left the sect, Lian Hongtu proclaimed himself the Sword Demon's descendant and established a second Sword Sect. However, because he had been expelled, the Elder Council didn't recognize him. But the Elder Council did recognize the Sword Demon Sect established by Jing Chuan and the Mystic Demon Sect established by Wu Doulang, calling them the true successors of the Sword Sect. Lian Hongtu was dissatisfied and protested, but was imprisoned in the Forbidden Grounds for 10 years for insulting the sect leader. By the time he got out, the Sword Demon Sect and Mystic Demon Sect had grown powerful. Left with no other choice, he finally established the Evil Eye Sword Sect, determined to restore his sect. He made 3 vows: first, to inherit the Sword Sect; second, to recover all the Sword Demon's sword techniques; and third, to be loyal to the sect leader and the sect. At this moment, Tian Ruming was also astonished. He had previously heard Li Yanming say that the descendants of the Sword Sect were all ambitious. He didn't expect that among them, there was someone who truly inherited the legacy of the Sword Sect. This 500-year loyalty was truly astonishing. Tian Ruming placed his hand on his chest and solemnly declared, "The Evil Eye Sword Sect is the true descendant of the Sword Sect." Lian Maohua was unexpectedly moved to tears, hearing the words she most wanted to hear from Tian Ruming's mouth. Tian Ruming formally invited Elder Lian Maohua to join him, guaranteeing that he wouldn't let the 6 great sects run rampant and cause further chaos within the sect. Lian Maohua looked at Tian Ruming in disbelief. "Can you really do it?" Su Feng, standing beside him, declared loudly, "Absolutely. The Poison Demon Sect has been eradicated. 5th Madam of the Profound Demon Sect and the others are also dead." Hearing this, Lian Maohua became even more dubious. At this moment, Tian Ruming delivered the decisive blow. "If you follow me and swear your undying loyalty, I will help you inherit the true legacy of the Sword Demon and pass on his martial arts to you." Just then, she seemed to think of something. She suddenly sat down cross-legged. The things that had always puzzled her suddenly became clear after watching Tian Ruming's swordsmanship. She truly grasped the Sword Demon's true meaning, her whole body enveloped in 5-colored energy. Tian Ruming glanced over and immediately recognized Lian Maohua's state, having experienced it himself before. But at that moment, a poison arrow flew out of nowhere towards Lian Maohua. Tian Ruming's eyes were sharp and his hands quick. He used his internal energy to stop the poison arrow just 2 inches from Lian Maohua. At this moment, Chao Vong Not also spotted someone and lunged towards them. The person tried to flee, but Chao Vong Not caught him. Meanwhile, Tian Numan had also subdued someone. Just as Chao Vong Not was distracted, the man he caught committed suicide by biting poison. He quickly turned around to warn Tian Numan. But Tian Numan was already cautious and held the man's mouth shut. He pulled a poison pill tied with a poison string from the man's mouth. He immediately ordered his subordinates to detoxify Lian Maohua. He coldly sealed the man's acupuncture points and asked, "Who sent you?" The man refused to speak, but looked around as if planning something. Seeing this, Tian Ruming used his internal energy to pry open the man's mouth, and pulled out a poison pill tied with a poison string. He said coldly, "I will break every bone in your body. If you change your mind, blink." The sound of cracking bones followed. At this moment, Lian Maohua had reached the final stage of her transformation. Following a blinding light, a beautiful young woman, appearing to be only about 20 years old, materialized. She walked directly towards Tian Ruming. Then she knelt. Sect master of the Evil Eye Sword Sect, 10th Elder Lian Manhwa, swears to follow young master Tian Ruming to the death. Just like that, Tian Ruming gained his strongest subordinate. In the study of the Evil Eye Sword Sect, Lian Manhwa recounted to Tian Ruming how she learned the Tranquil Heart Demonic Sword and the 24 demonic swords. It was one night 8 years ago, when she was at her manor, that a masked figure in black suddenly appeared. She fought the figure, but was defeated in just a few moves. Then, the figure said that if she wanted to inherit the Sword Sect's legacy, she should go to the peak of 5 Elements Mountain in the southwest of the 10,000 Great Mountains in 3 days. After that, the figure disappeared. 3 days later, Lian Manhwa went to the mountain peak. There, she met the sect leader of the demonic sword sect, Jing Benji, and the sect leader of the profound demonic sect, Wu Zhengyuan. She hadn't expected that the masked figure had summoned them as well. Soon, the man in black appeared. They wanted to know the man's identity, but he refused to tell them, only allowing them to call him nameless. So, the masked figure taught the 3 of them the Calm Heart Devil Sword. At this point, Lian Manhwa objected. She believed that the Sword Devil Sect and the Mysterious Devil Sect were not the true descendants of the Sword Sect, and were unworthy of learning the Calm Heart Devil Sword. Next, the masked figure demonstrated a sword technique, and told them that this sword technique was the last one left by the Sword Devil. In 3 years, he will pass on the perfected Calm Heart Demonic Sword to one of them. After returning, Lian Manhwa, desiring the true inheritance of the Sword Demon, practiced day and night. 3 years later, when they met again on the summit of 5 Elements Mountain, both Jing Benji and Wu Zhengyuan had perfected the Calm Heart Demonic Sword. Unable to distinguish between them, Nameless gave them another chance. He gave them 2 more years. Whoever could supplement the shortcomings of the Calm Heart Demonic Sword would receive the 24 demonic swords. But both Jing Benji and Wu Zhengyuan worked very hard. Unable to distinguish between them a second time, Nameless had no choice but to change his approach. Within 3 years, whoever could reproduce the first move of the 24 demonic swords that he had demonstrated. Jing Benji then said that without the breathing techniques in the manual, how could they practice a move they had only seen once? Nameless then told them that the sword technique required a special breathing method, and as long as they possessed the will to truly inherit the sword demon's legacy, they would definitely succeed. After that, Nameless demonstrated the sword technique, its power no less than the 24 demonic swords. But when Nameless performed this move, he coughed up blood. His body seemed very frail. 3 years later, Nameless would use this move to test them. If they could complete the first move of the 24 demonic swords, they could break this technique. And now, there were only 6 months left until the 3-year deadline. At this moment, Destiny was very puzzled. Who was this Nameless? How did he know the 24 demonic swords? If he had seen the secret manual in the demonic cliff cave, he must have passed the 6th stage of the trial. But no one had been heard of passing the 6th stage in the last 70 years. And what exactly was the technique that could counter the 24 demonic swords? Tian Ruming suddenly asked, "Do you remember the move Nameless used 3 years ago?" Lian Manhwa nodded firmly. So, the two went to the Devil Eye Sword Sect's training room. If Tian Ruming's guess was correct, the move that could be countered by the 24 demonic swords was. Tian Ruming used the 4th move of the Heavenly Devil Sword technique. Seeing this, Lian Manhwa's eyes widened. The move Tian Ruming used was identical to the one Nameless used 3 years ago. Lian Manhwa tentatively asked, "Young master, how did you know this? Moreover, you use it even more proficiently." Tian Ruming ignored Lian Manhwa and was deep in thought. It was previously said that the Heavenly Devil Patriarch personally refined the move, engraved it on the Azure Jade Stone, and left the secrets in the sect leader's hall. This made Tian Ruming suspect Wu Ming's true identity was the cult leader. However, this didn't explain how he mastered the 24 demonic swords, as one must pass the 6th stage trial of the demonic cave to learn them. The current cult leader is only 50 years old, so he certainly couldn't have passed the 6th stage trial 70 years ago. That Wu Ming, although he has mastered the heavenly demonic sword technique, it's not perfect. I must meet him. After leaving the demonic eye sword sect the next day, Sima Zhuo brought good news. Tian Ruming immediately went to the Yin demonic sect. Sect leader Sima Yi came out to greet him and prepared a banquet. Tian Ruming got straight to the point. "Elder Sima, I ask for your support in becoming the next young cult leader." Sima Yi, seeing Tian Ruming's politeness, he immediately stepped forward and poured the wine. Then, he coughed. After that, a servant hurriedly ran in. Soon, he led in a beautiful young woman, who slowly entered. Elder Sima introduced her. "This is my daughter, Sima Yi. Heavenly Elder, you want to become the young sect master, and I naturally support you, but trust must be built on a certain foundation." These words stunned Tian Ruming. Seeing this, Sima Yi smiled and looked at Tian Ruming. "I heard you're not married. My daughter is still young, please take care of her." Hearing this, Ban Koyi beside him spat out the water he had just taken a sip of. But Tian New Men didn't know what to do. Seeing this, Tumania thought that Tian Luzan didn't like his daughter and continued to enthusiastically introduce her. Tian Luzan then realized that this grand banquet had a purpose. Tumania was determined to marry his daughter off to Tian Luzan. Only in this way could he escape from having to watch the expressions of the 6 great sects for everything he did. He continued, since ancient times, both sides, in order to maintain a stable relationship, would arrange marriages to forge alliances. Hearing this, Tian Luzan lowered his head in thought. Sima Yi continued, if you become the young sect master, you will inevitably clash with the 6 great sections. You understand this better than anyone. To deal with all of them, Elder Tian also needs corresponding power. Wen Kuei, seeing Sima Yi's eloquent speech, grew even more impressed. And Tian Rumming agreed, saying that Sima Yi had a point. At this point, everyone thought Tian Rumming was about to agree, and they were all overjoyed. Even Sima Yi smiled. But unexpectedly, Tian Rumming suddenly said, I only said he had a point. I want to know, if I don't get married, will the elders still support me? Hearing this, Sima Yi was secretly frightened, not expecting Tian Rumming to ask such a question. At this moment, if he answered affirmatively, he would certainly lose face, but if he answered negatively, he would miss the opportunity to use this support to marry his daughter to him. While Sima Yi didn't know how to answer. Sima Jue beside him suddenly spoke up. The 9th elder has held the sect leader in high regard since the 6th stage of the examination. Even without marriage. He considered the sect leader the most suitable candidate for the position of young sect leader, hence the elaborate arrangements. Hearing this, both Sima Yi and Sima Yi were stunned. Tian Rumming then calmly asked, Elder Sima? Sima Yi was speechless. Tian Rumming then said, it seems you and your son have differing opinions. Then, Elder Sima and I are not of the same mind. Thank you for your enthusiasm. After saying this, he called for everyone to prepare to leave. At this moment, the happiest person was Van Koi. But Elder Sima hurriedly stopped Tian Rumming. Tian Rumming then said, do you know why I want to become the young sect master? Do you think the current 6 great sects in power have any backing? It's precisely due to the interconnected marriages that formed the current 6 great sects. Elder Sima, being in the upper echelons of our sect, you must be very clear about this. To rectify this mistake, to restore our sect to its former glory, I have stepped forward. Hearing Tian Rumming's words, Sima Yi was also very surprised, never expecting him to have such great ambition. Tian Rumming then clasped his hands and said, thank you for your kind intentions, Elder, but it seems to differ greatly from my thoughts. As for marriage, I want to marry the one I love. Hearing this, Van Koi blushed beside him. Just as Tian Luzan reached the door, Tumania suddenly knelt down and said loudly, I haven't thought things through, please forgive me. The Inma sect leader pays his respects to 9th elder Tumania. Please accept my jade pendant. Tian Luzan left the Inma sect and went to see Lai Niam Min. He wanted to ask about the person who passed the 6th stage of the examination 70 years ago. Lai Niam Min wanted to know why Tian Luzan was asking about this. Lian Manhwa recounted his story to Li Yanming. After listening, Li Yanming was astonished. He hadn't expected anyone else to know the heavenly demon sword technique. He pondered for a moment. 70 years ago, the person who passed the 6th stage of the Devil's Cave trial was Supreme Leader Tian Rinji. Among all the leaders, he was known as the most formidable martial arts prodigy in 500 years. He achieved countless glorious feats in the battles against the Martial Arts League and the allied sects, and even expanded the territory of the heavenly demon sacred sect. Tian Rumming thought about how his grandfather had disappeared 20 years ago. So, who was this Wuming's true identity? Meanwhile, Li Yanming was also deep in thought. Only the sect leader and the treasure guardian beneath the Devil's Cave had mastered those 2 supreme sword techniques. To master them, one had to be able to freely enter and exit the sect leader's hall and pass the 6th stage of the trial. Just then, a commotion suddenly erupted on the street. It caused everyone inside the houses to rush out to see what was happening. So the cult leader has returned. Passers-by cheered upon seeing the cult leader's return. At this moment, Tian Rumming saw his master there as well. One of his eyes was injured, a deep wound. Looking closely at the others, 5th elder Xiang Su Ron's left arm was gone, the other elders were also more or less injured, and furthermore, 7th elder Kong Xianxiong of the Kenming blade sect was dead. Tian Rumming knew something big must have happened. At this time, Xianmo sect leader Wu Zhongyuan was on horseback, looking around. He didn't see his younger sister or anyone from the Xianmo sect in the crowd. He had a bad feeling. Another group appeared behind the convoy. On closer inspection, there were 50 experts. Huani suddenly appeared beside me and said, it seems things are getting more and more interesting. Tian Rumming hurriedly asked, do you know what's going on? Huani replied, the news has been blocked, so I'm not entirely sure, but this time our sect might clash with the Martial Alliance. Inside the heavenly demon cult's main hall, the elders and sect leaders of the high-ranking sects were all present. At this moment, 5th elder Xiang Su Ron was still reprimanding by Wu, the sect leader of the poison demon sect. Just then, someone shouted, 3rd Elder, 11th Elder, and 12th Elder have arrived. The elders seated above all frowned. They had assumed Bai Wu would leave with his subordinates. But when they clearly saw the person who entered, they all revealed expressions of disbelief. Tian Ruming cupped his hands in greeting to the elders. I am Tian Ruming, the newly appointed 12th Elder. Hearing this, the elders still couldn't believe that Tian Ruming had actually passed the 6th stage of the examination. These sect leaders were all filled with murderous intent towards Tian Ruming. Every one of them wanted to kill him. At this moment, Gao Wangxian of the demonic sect took the initiative to greet Tian Ruming. Following that, many sect leaders came to greet Tian Ruming. Seeing this, the elders became even more perplexed. What happened while they were gone? While everyone was chatting happily, someone suddenly shouted, the sect leader is here. As soon as the sect leader entered the main hall, Tian Ruming noticed the sect leader's uneven breathing, likely indicating internal injuries. At this moment, Yi Meng also saw Tian Ruming sitting on the elder's chair. Sensing his powerful aura, which had now surpassed his own, he rejoiced inwardly. At this moment, Tian Ruming felt as if a giant hand was pressing down on him. He looked over, the sect leader was watching him. Although he concealed it well, Tian Ruming still saw the surprise in his eyes. The sect leader had 9th Elder Sima Yi report on the situation within the demonic sect during his absence. When he heard that the profound demonic sect and the poison demonic sect had fought, resulting in the poison demonic sect's annihilation and heavy losses for the profound demonic sect, the main hall immediately erupted in commotion. The elders, upon hearing 9th Elder's account of the chaotic infighting, all wore expressions of disbelief. They couldn't believe their own people would do such a thing. Wu Zhongyuan, even more so, couldn't believe his younger sister would be foolish enough to charge into the poison demonic sect and fight them. Though the outcome was clear, it was still unbelievable. He slammed his fist on the table, breaking the armrest. Seeing the elders' expressions change, Li Yanming knew young Master Tian's plan had succeeded. From now on, those people would certainly not be able to get along as they had before. At this moment, 9th Elder Sima Yi continued, according to the sect's rules, Elder Tian Ruming has passed the 6th stage of the examination, thus becoming the newly appointed 12th Elder. I take this opportunity to request the sect leader officially appoint Elder Tian as the 12th Elder. At this time, Xiang Surong suddenly voiced his objection. But the sect leader ignored him and had Tian Ruming step forward. He officially appointed Tian Ruming as the 12th Elder of the Heavenly Devil Divine Sect and promised him one request. Tian Ruming immediately said, I request to be the young sect leader. Hearing this, the sect leader hesitated. At this moment, Elder Sima, Grand Elder Huani, and Elder Lian Manhwa stepped forward and voiced their support for Tian Ruming as the young sect leader. Sect leader, do all 3 elders acknowledge 7th young master as the young sect leader? The 3 answered in unison, we acknowledge young master Tian Ruming is qualified to become the young sect leader of our sect. The sect leader didn't expect Tian Ruming to gain the support of the 3 so quickly, so he said, then I will officially appoint Tian Ru. Before he could finish, a powerful killing intent surged forth. 5th Elder Wu Zhongyuan was enraged and wanted to kill Tian Ruming. But at that moment, a long sword was placed against his neck. It turned out that Li Yanming had stopped Wu Zhongyuan in time. 5th Elder Wu Zhongyuan bellowed, you think I don't know what you've been doing behind my back? But Tian Ruming only gave him a cold glance. At this moment, the sect leader suddenly roared, enough! Feeling the sect leader's pressure, Wu Zhongyuan was frightened. He knelt down and cried out, I have been disrespectful to the supreme sect leader. Having said that, he cowed out in fear. The sect leader didn't punish Wu Zhongyuan and let him withdraw. But as soon as Wu Zhongyuan left, his body suddenly moved. He then turned and charged towards Tian Ruming. It turned out that just now, Tian Ruming had secretly transmitted a message to the 5th Elder, confessing that he had killed the 5th Madam and the disciples of the Xianma sect. Hearing this, Wu Zhongyuan couldn't restrain his killing intent and lunged at Tian Ruming. Seeing this, Li Yanming, who was beside him, hurriedly rushed forward to stop him. But he was sent flying by a single palm strike from Wu Zhongyuan. He then used the ultimate technique of the Calm Heart Demonic Sword, the Emotionless Sword, to attack Tian Ruming. At this moment, the sect leader and the others watched silently, making no move to intervene. Tian Newman felt the powerful sword energy rushing towards him, its might far surpassing the Calm Heart Demonic Sword he was currently wielding. He immediately activated the 24 demonic swords to defend himself. Seeing Tian Newman use this sword technique, Vo Chinvin was secretly astonished. He hadn't expected Tian Newman to also know the 24 demonic swords. Vo Chinvin charged towards Tian Newman again, condensing swords in both hands. His left hand held the Calm Heart Demonic Sword, while his right wielded the Arcane Demonic Sword technique. Caught off guard by this sudden change, Tian Newman couldn't react in time and was wounded by the sword energy. At this moment, the nanosystem was rapidly healing his wounds. Seeing Tian Newman injured, Vo Chinvin decided to press his advantage and attack again. He's using his ultimate technique. In his right hand, the Calming Heart Demonic Sword, and in his left, the first of the 24 demonic sword stances. Even the cult leader would struggle to defend against this powerful move. Tian Ruming, knowing the 24 demonic sword stances, surely can't withstand this. Just then, he suddenly transforms his sword chi into blade chi. Aiming for the weakness in Wu Zhongyuan's technique, he strikes with his blade. The powerful blade light instantly shatters his sword chi. Tian Ruming gives him no chance to breathe, immediately unleashing the final stance of the extreme blade divine saber art. A colossal dragon manifests around Tian Ruming, slowly taking form, then suddenly lunges towards Wu Zhongyuan. A loud bang echoed, and Vo Chin Vien was blown into 4 pieces, falling from the sky. Everyone around wore a look of horror. Only Lai Niangmin recognized this as the extreme blade god's blade technique. At this moment, the Grand Protector suddenly sent a voice transmission to Lai Niangmin, asking to speak with him later. Meanwhile, Ho Nat was calculating how to seize the remaining forces of the Wenma sect after the Grand Elder's death. The sect leader hadn't acted earlier because he wanted to wait for a critical moment. But he hadn't expected Tian Nu Men to be so powerful, gradually becoming a threat to him. Now, he could only continue to observe. Hang Tadung shouted from the side, "How dare you! You actually killed the Grand Elder in front of the cult leader." Cult leader Jing Qing of the Yin Demon cult added. "Indeed." Elder Tian Ruming, kneel and apologize to the cult leader at once. Tian Ruming glanced coldly at the two of them. He then knelt and kowtowed. "My life was threatened, so I unintentionally committed this disrespectful act in the main hall. I beg the cult leader for forgiveness." Seeing this, Hang Tadung smiled, thinking to herself, the cult leader hates people challenging his authority the most. "You're courting death." Just then, Left Protector Li Yanming suddenly knelt down and said, "Please punish me. I am useless. Young master was in danger, and I failed to protect him, which is why this happened." Seeing Li Yanming step forward, Hang Tadung grew even more displeased. Could it be that not only the elder, but even the Left Protector has become one of his people? The cult leader didn't punish Tian Ruming, only warning him not to repeat his offense. After securing his position, Tian Ruming was officially appointed as the young sect master. Xiang Surong and the Yin Demon sect master, Jing Qing, could only gnash their teeth in anger. To avenge his mother, Tian Ruming was determined to kill them one by one. Due to other important matters, the inauguration ceremony for the young sect master was postponed. Seeing Tian Ruming's injuries, the sect master instructed him to seek treatment first. He couldn't reveal that the nanosystem had already healed him. Tian Ruming had no choice but to leave. Before leaving, he asked Elder Huan to preside over the meeting. When Tian Ruming returned to the Fai Hong Ghost sect, he heard good news: Guard Zhang had woken up. Tian Ruming rushed to visit Guard Zhang. At this time, Guard Zhang had lost all his teeth, his speech was slurred, and his dantian was crippled. Thinking of how Guard Zhang had sacrificed everything for him, he couldn't let Guard Zhang live out his final days in such misery. Tian Ruming asked the nanosystem if there was any way to restore a destroyed dantian. The nanosystem said it needed to analyze it, but currently, it had dental implant technology. Hearing this, Tian Ruming immediately had the nanosystem transmit the information about dental implants into his mind, planning to ask Oshan Xiong and Bai Defu for help when he had time. Next, Tian Ruming told Guard Zhang the good news that he had been made the deputy sect leader. Unexpectedly, upon hearing this, Guard Zhang spat out fresh blood and fainted. Just as Tian Ruming thought Guard Zhang was overcome with excitement, the nanosystem's voice rang out in his head: decrease in cerebral blood flow, fainting, these are symptoms that appear when strongly stimulated. Hearing this, Tian Ruming breathed a sigh of relief. So he fainted from shock. An hour later, Elder Huan returned from the meeting and told Tian Ruming that the meeting in the main hall had approved the alliance with the Martial Arts League. This was because Anhui and Zhejiang had been previously seized, not by the Hero League, but by a previously unknown sect. Zhejiang has 9 branches of the Heavenly Devil Divine Cult. The Wulin Alliance, led by the Nangung clan of Anhui, consisted of 15 sections. But not long after, 3 branches of the demonic cult were simultaneously attacked. The demonic cult suspected the Wulin Alliance and retaliated by attacking 2 nearby branches in Jiangxi and 6 others in Zhejiang. Within half a month, all of them were destroyed. The demonic cult, still believing the Wulin Alliance responsible, prepared for war. But at that moment, emissaries from the Wulin Alliance arrived at the demonic cult. Though the cult intended to kill them, the emissaries delivered shocking news. Anhui, the Wulin Alliance's territory, had also been raided, and even Nangung Sun, one of the 17 lords, had vanished. The Wulin League assumed the demonic cult was responsible, so they sent emissaries. Upon arrival, they discovered a third party was behind the attack. From then on, the Wulin League and the demonic cult entered a temporary truce until they reclaimed Anhui and Zhejiang. To reclaim these territories, the demonic cult deployed their core forces, but the result was devastating. Including their leader, all the elders were injured, and 7th Elder Kong Xianxiong of the Kanming Blade sect was killed in action. But the meeting didn't specify how they died. Because of the common enemy, they formed an alliance. Tian Ruming asked, "Have you investigated what sect that was?" Elder Huan thought for a moment. "Although we don't have concrete information, they call themselves The Extreme Blade 6-5 sect. After the general meeting, the Grand Dharma Protector sought out Li Yanming. The true successor of the Sword Demon's legacy had appeared, but he wasn't happy. Li Yanming was furious. It turned out to be because of the Extreme Blade 6-5 sect. The Grand Dharma Protector continued. It wasn't made clear during the general meeting, but the experts from the Extreme Blade 6-5 sect were invited by 5th Elder Xiang Surong. They captured Right Dharma Protector Yi Mang. We went to Zhejiang prepared for a night raid, but we were ambushed as soon as we arrived. It was as if they were waiting for us. Although they outnumbered us, we had sent our core force this time. But soon after, 3 experts appeared, wielding sword, palm, and claw techniques. They looked like they were from the Extreme Blade 6-5 sect. They easily defeated the sect leader and the stronghold. Master. There was no other way. The elders had to personally intervene, but even 2 elders attacking together could only manage a draw against them. But after the death of 7th Elder Kong Xianxiong and 5th Elder Xiang Surong's injury, we were at a disadvantage. In the end, I had no choice but to call for a truce with their leader. After exchanging blows with their swordsman, having said that, the Grand Protector took off his shirt, revealing a scar-ridden wound. Li Yanming was shocked by the sight of the wound. It didn't look like a sword cut, but rather a wound caused by sword chi. Moreover, the wound looked very similar to the blade work of the Extreme Blade. God! Even the Grand Protector, skilled in movement techniques, couldn't completely dodge the opponent's attacks. If they had used blade techniques, I fear the Grand Protector would have ended up like 5th Elder. That evening, in the meeting hall, to welcome the emissary of the Martial Alliance. The cult leader and the elders have all taken their seats. Soon after, Feng Qi, the leader of the Manhwa sect, one of the 17 champions of the Martial Arts Alliance, arrived with Jin Yun, the 5th champion, and Wu Rongjiang, the 7th champion, leading members of the Martial Arts Alliance. The 2 sides exchanged greetings. But at this moment, the cult leader suddenly frowned. It turned out that a Martial Arts Alliance expert had infiltrated, wearing a mask. Seeing the cult leader, the person hastily removed his mask. It turned out to be Zhuge Zhaohai, the 2nd strategist of the Martial Arts Alliance. Tian Ruming stood up, clasped his hands, and said, "Young master of the Heavenly Demon Cult and 12th Elder, Tian Ruming, greets all the heroes of the martial world." At this moment, in a hidden corner outside, a man silently watched Tian Ruming. As the first cup of wine was poured, only the clinking sound of the wine jug and cup could be heard. But Zhuge Zhaohai suddenly stood up. He slowly approached Tian Ruming, sat down beside him, and pressed his face close to Tian Ruming's. Seeing this, Tian Ruming felt very uncomfortable. Could he be drunk? So, Tian Ruming let the nano system analyze his face. His pupils constricted, his eyes as if hypnotized. Just then, the sound of a bottle and glass colliding rang out. Next, Jia Guozhaoshi suddenly attacked Tian Ruming. Tian Ruming easily repelled him. Jia Guozhaoshi charged at Tian Ruming again. But he didn't stop, continuing to attack Tian Ruming. At this moment, the man hidden in the shadows, seeing this, thought his plan was about to succeed and revealed a sinister smile. But the nano system told Tian Ruming how to break the hypnosis. When Jia Guozhaohai approached, Tian Ruming touched his head with a finger, and had the nano system shock him with electricity. A current passed through, and Jia Guozhaohai collapsed. He had no memory of what just happened. Seeing his plan fail, the man hidden in the shadows prepared to execute his second plan. He clinked his glass against a bottle, making a ringing sound. Morong Yumo, the young master of the Morong family, suddenly made a move. Then abruptly charged towards Tian Ruming. "You dare touch our young miss? I'll kill you myself." Before he could reach Tian Ruming, he was stopped by Elder Huan. He was then immediately slapped by Elder Lian Manhwa. At this moment, Tian Ruming realized that a hypnotist was present, and there was likely more than one. He had his nanosystem adjust his hearing, allowing him to hear voice transmissions. Seeing their second plan fail, the person transmitted their voice to an accomplice, instructing them to use the third option. Based on the voice transmission, Tian Ruming immediately pinpointed their location. He immediately appeared in front of a man, grabbing him by the throat. "What's the third option?" At this moment, seeing Tian Ruming capturing one of their own, the Wu Lin Ming members charged forward. But Tian Ruming ignored them, turning to ask Jia Zhaohai, "Is this warrior yours?" Jia Zhaohai was still in a daze. But he didn't recognize the man. Hearing him say he didn't recognize the man, everyone was stunned. Meanwhile, the man dared to transmit a message to his companions, planning to use the third option, creating chaos to help his companions search for the Sword Demon's materials. Hearing about the Sword Demon's jade pendant, Tian Ruming was also secretly surprised. Just then, someone suddenly clapped their hands. Everyone around immediately stopped. Immediately after, someone struck the person beside them, and in an instant, the demonic cult and the Martial Alliance began fighting chaotically. At this moment, the man's companion shouted, "Those despicable people ambushed us. We cannot stand idly by." Immediately, some people were incited by him. At this time, the elders and higher-ups of the martial alliance also began to fight. In this critical moment, Tian Ruming suddenly appeared to stop them, and shouted, "Those people are hypnotized." Strategist Zhuge's strange behavior must also be due to the culprit's hypnosis. Hearing this, Supreme Leader Feng Qi quickly asked, "What should we do now?" Tian Ruming then said, "Everyone, go manage your subordinates. Don't let those who aren't hypnotized fight anymore. Leave the hypnotized ones to me." He let his nanosystem scan those people, then identify who was hypnotized. When he touched a hypnotized person, the nanosystem would help him discharge electricity. After a frenzy of electrical discharge, the hypnotized people immediately regained consciousness. At this moment, Tian Ruming saw the man. In the next second, he appeared in front of them. He grabbed the man's neck, then forcefully pressed him to the ground. The man tried to punch back, but Tian Ruming easily deflected the blow. Then, with a forceful twist, the man's wrist snapped. Feng Qingyun, the leader of the Manhwa sect, was also astonished and enraged by their audacity before the demonic cult. Tian Ruming lifted the man like a chicken. "Who are you rats?" The man didn't answer but looked at his companions as if signaling something. Seeing this, Tian Ruming used his internal energy to force the man's mouth open, and pulled out a poison pill tied with a venomous thread. Seeing the man wasn't going to talk, Tian Ruming decided to deal with what they called a plot first. Meanwhile, outside the study in the demonic cavern, a mechanism was triggered. The entrance to the underground treasury was also breached, activating a trap and sealing the entrance with green jade stones. Just then, a loud crashing sound against the jade stone echoed from within the treasury. Hearing the commotion, the two guards outside were alerted. Another loud explosion followed. Cracks began to appear on the surface of the jade stone as it emitted a cracking sound. At this moment, Li Yanming, the left protector, was leading his subordinates toward the Devil's Cave. His men had reported that the Devil's Cave was under attack. Before he could arrive, a loud explosion rang out. Sensing something amiss, Li Yanming immediately used his inner strength to rush ahead. When he reached the study, he was shocked to see corpses scattered everywhere. At this moment, two men were walking out of the study. Seeing them, Li Yanming remembered seeing one of them among the Wu Lin sects group. Looking at the aura that man exuded now, he was definitely not at the level of a martial arts guard. At this time, the guards also arrived one after another, and seeing the scene before them, they all revealed surprised expressions. Li Yanming stopped the agitated guards and asked, "Is the treasure underground your target?" The man readily admitted it. The man ordered the other to take the items and go first, he would cover him. Seeing the man about to leave, Li Yanming ordered his subordinates to attack. Just then, the man took a deep breath and blew towards the oncoming guards. The sound, imbued with internal force like hypnotic music, caused them to collapse one after another, clutching their heads. However, some with strong internal force were unaffected and charged towards him. But in the next moment, the man moved, and the attacker's head flew off his neck, spinning 360 degrees in the air. At this moment, another guard rushed forward, slashing a sword at him. This powerful sword energy was easily caught by the man with 2 fingers. He channeled his energy and retreated. But as soon as he regained his footing, the man instantly appeared before him. A fist pierced through his chest. At this moment, the man ordered his subordinates to go ahead. Seeing this, Li Yanming charged forward. He couldn't let the man take the items away. But this powerful attack was easily deflected by the man. And at this moment, someone stood in front of Li Yanming, and the impact forced Li Yanming back several steps. At this moment, the man said scornfully, "Is this all you've got? The demonic sect's martial arts are praised as supreme, but is this the extent of your skill?" Li Yanming asked, "Who are you?" The man didn't answer, only scoffed. Li Yanming hurriedly defended himself. The man moved swiftly, saying, "Is this the true extent of your strength? You can't even withstand these moves." Li Yanming could only barely block the attacks. He now realized the man was stronger than him in every aspect. "I can't just defend, I have to attack." So, he used the extreme sword technique, Inverse Inferno Extinguishing Flame. Seeing such a powerful move, the man smiled. "Now that's more like it." The powerful sword aura collided with the long sword, producing a series of explosions. As the two fought, Li Yanming revealed a surprised expression. At this moment, he could only barely withstand the man's attacks, because the direction of the man's fist techniques always caught him off guard. Just then, he saw countless fist images rushing towards him. Facing the powerful fist images, Li Yanming couldn't defend himself and was struck. Then, the man punched him hard. Li Yanming was sent flying 6 or 7 meters, crashing heavily into the wall behind him, sending dust flying everywhere. Left protector Li Yanming used his sword as a support, preventing himself from falling. Based on their previous encounter, he knew the man was from the Extreme Blade 6-5 sects, as he sensed blade energy from the man's fist techniques. And the man admitted that he was Xian, the sect leader of the Blade Fist sect of the Extreme Blade 6-5 sects. Li Yanming wanted to inform the instructor of the situation, but he couldn't move his body. Xian slowly approached Li Yanming, focusing his internal energy into his fist. Just as he was about to strike, an unidentified black object flew towards him. He caught it. when he saw clearly what was in his hand, his eyes. It's the head of his subordinate. At this moment, Tian Ruming's voice rang out. Are you the one they call the Extreme Blade God? Li Yanming was extremely surprised to see Tian Ruming, young sect master. Hearing this form of address, Xian in front of him became furious. But he knew that with the young sect master's appearance here, his plan had definitely failed. So he decided to kill Li Yanming and then quickly retreat. But before his fist could land, Tian Ruming appeared between the two of them, raising his sword to block the blow. Xian was also very surprised. He didn't expect him to block the attack so easily. So I punched Tian Ruming in the face again. But Tian Ruming knew at this moment that he absolutely couldn't retreat. If he were suppressed, Li Yanming behind him would be in danger. He relied on his physical strength to withstand the blow. This surprised Xian even more. He had never met anyone who could withstand his punch with just external martial arts. Tian Ruming was hit by this punch. The powerful force immediately injured his internal organs, and fresh blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He had his nano system quickly heal his internal injuries. Meanwhile, Li Yanming was finally able to move. Tian Ruming gave him the item and told him to go find the sect leader. Li Yanming took the item and left. How could Xian let him go so easily? He flashed, appearing in front of Li Yanming, then launched a sneak attack. Unexpectedly, Tian Ruming appeared between the two of them. Xian still wasn't giving up. He dodged Tian Ruming, then threw a punch at Li Yanming. Relying on his movement technique, Tian Ruming appeared again and blocked the blow. He then turned around and attacked. At this moment, Xian was also very surprised. Wasn't he previously internally injured? Why hasn't his power diminished at all? At this moment, Tu Hian prepared himself seriously. He prepared to use all his strength for a swift resolution. A punch carrying terrifying power shot towards Tian Numen. Its speed and unpredictable trajectory leaving Tian Numen no time to react. He could only quickly retreat and dodge. When Tian Numen regained his footing, he asked, "What is your relationship with Cuc Dao then?" Tu Hian scoffed, "If you know him, then the demonic cult is actually a descendant of my sect." Just then, footsteps could be heard from outside. The warrior guards have surrounded the devil's cave. Xian knew that escaping safely was impossible. So, he wanted to take Tian Ruming hostage. Tian Ruming smiled, "Can you catch me?" Xian charged towards Tian Ruming. Countless fist shadows immediately enveloped Tian Ruming. Tian Ruming saw the second move of the extreme saber divine saber technique within them. He had perfectly combined the technique in fist style. Tian Ruming used the fourth move of the 24 demonic swords, Heavenly Wall Sword Radiance, to defend. Powerful sword energy clashed with fist energy, producing booming sounds. As the fight progressed, Tian Ruming felt his 24 demonic swords couldn't withstand his opponent's attacks. As he dodged a punch to the face, he was struck in the chest by another fist. He quickly used his sword to block his chest, deflecting the blow. At this point, Tian Ruming was struggling to cope. He unleashed several bursts of sword energy, forcing Xian back. In the next second, Xian broke through the sword energy and charged towards Tian Ruming. With continuous attacks, the heavens decree longsword. Finally unable to withstand it, it breaks in two. Tu Hian sneers triumphantly, "Is that all the sword demon swordsmanship amounts to? Useless against me. Stop resisting pointlessly, come with me obediently. Let's go." At this moment, Tian Numen suddenly throws away the longsword in his hand. The wound on his face also begins to heal rapidly. Seeing this, Tu Hian is also very surprised. He can't let Tian Numen fully recover. Therefore, he tightens his fists. Focus all your power, attack the fate of heaven. Then, black demonic energy radiated from his right hand, quickly transforming and gradually forming a long sword, the Heavenly Demon Sword. He raised it, the fourth stance of the Heavenly Demon Sword technique. Meanwhile, Xian sensed the power of the fate of heaven. Secretly astonished, in this situation, he could only desperately charge forward. The black demonic energy emanating from the Heavenly Demon Sword slowed his movements. In an instant, the Heavenly Demon Sword pierced through his chest. This time, he truly couldn't believe such a powerful sword energy existed. Meanwhile, at the Devil's Cave main hall, the cult leader and the others had arrived. Li Yanming happened to meet them there. He was seriously injured internally, his face pale. The young cult leader is currently in front of the study, fighting against an expert from the Extreme Blade 6-5 sect. After saying this, he fainted. The Great Protector hurried forward to check on him. He determined that Li Yanming's life wasn't in danger, he had just fainted. Just then, the cult leader was about to go to the study. But the Great Protector stopped him. Since the cult leader's injuries hadn't fully healed, the Dharma Protector decided to go himself. The cult leader had the 4th and 10th elders accompany him. When the Dharma Protector arrived, he witnessed Tian Ruming using the Heavenly Demon Sword technique to kill Xian. He also noticed the long sword in Tian Ruming's hand. After killing Xian, Tian Ruming quickly put away the black long sword. At that moment, he noticed the Dharma Protector approaching from afar. Just then, the 4th and 10th elders also arrived. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. Elder Lian Manhwa rushed to Tian Ruming's side, asking if he was alright. The Grand Protector also flashed over, appearing before him. Seeing the scene, he didn't ask much, only if Tian Ruming was okay. At that moment, the sect leader arrived. Tian Ruming hastily bowed to the sect leader. He worried the Grand Protector would tell the sect leader what he had just seen. The sect leader asked, "Why is the Grand Protector here?" The Grand Protector replied, "I saw the young sect master defeat the expert from the Extreme Blade 6-5 sect." Just then, the sect leader saw Si Xian's body. To be able to inflict such a wound, Tian Ruming's strength cannot be underestimated.